share it as a post, but it ended up being on my story, and I gotta send it to Denisha just because it was actually something critical of Lord of the Rings. I thought it would be great for her. So
I saw that,
uh,
but when you shared it to your, can you hear me?
yeah.
When you shared it to your story, his head was in the way, and I couldn't read all of them, and I was like, oh.
Yeah, but he actually goes through all of it in the video. Though in your story, it was a very short
Clip.
portion. It was a very short clip. It wasn't even the full clip. But
Right.
I wound up finding him on TikTok and
Yeah.
watched all three of them.
I
Plus,
went.
have you seen his explanation as to what he thought Lord of the Rings was?
I haven't gotten to that one.
That is
David, do me a favor and
hilarious.
send me a TikTok or something with him, because I wanted to read them, and I was like, move your head, dude. Like, move out of my way so I can read the rest of these. And I thought of Denisha when I saw it too, because I know she's, not feeling Lord of the Rings. So
Let's see if I can.
Lord of the Rings people always be trying to convert you though.
That is any good show.
No.
yeah, I agree with Ty.
It's
Like
different.
any good show, you're like, oh, you haven't seen it? Oh my God, let me.
Let me tell you the worst people who try to convert you is Lord of the Rings, is in movies, is Lord of the Rings. In TV, bad.
Wait, in TV, it's
Yeah,
what?
yeah, the
Breaking
Breaking Bad. If you don't like
Still
it,
haven't
you
watched a
haven't
single
watched
episode.
Breaking Bad and you aren't really interested, or Better Call Saul, like you about to get. It's like Jehovah Witness at your door. You about to get up there for like 20 minutes.
Who the fuck are you hanging out with? Because never got any pressure on Breaking Bad. I
Nah,
finally
see,
just watched it out of the blue with my wife about a couple months ago, and I loved it. But I'm not eager to pitch it to people.
See, when you live in LA, like knowledge of like current entertainment is like social capital as well. It's like important for like conversations when you got to go out to like dinner, and this is how you like climb up and just being able to be like social in at least in these circles, but knowing like the IP, and sometimes the IP of the people who you work with, like they watching other stuff too, so you be able to like stuff. But it's like I understood what Breaking Bad was. Anytime it came up, I just would try to be as quiet as possible and hope nobody tried to like ask me, because every single time, and it's like it's like a record scratching moment. Everybody's just like, you're not watching Breaking Bad, but you got it. It's like, look, man, I'm not really trying to see like this white dude get away with being a drug dealer after, some of the experiences that I've had in my life and in my community. It's like, I'm sure it is riveting, but it's just not the kind of shit that I like to watch. I don't really watch a lot of drug crime stuff, period. Like, I've seen City like twice. I don't watch Power. I don't watch Book of Canaan. I don't watch BMF. I don't watch like none of that stuff. So like when Black
on that one, Jeffrey.
In the evening on Sundays, I just be like, all right, I'll stay over here like in the soccer part. Here comes back or some shit.
Nothing wrong with that. So I guess all of that comes up because as a fan of the Lord of the Rings movies, first off, hey everybody, what's going on? Welcome. We are Grode Geeks. This is Weigh In Wednesdays, where we are here to talk about all things geek. We just let the conversation go as it is. Got a full house tonight. Got Ty for Whiskalodian. You can check out his podcast. I know it's available pretty much anywhere you get your podcast. That's a hell of a show. A whiskey riddled rewatching of old Nickelodeon shows. And you get some great recipes. You can get some drink ideas. Got some cool stuff. Ty, there's an Etsy shop I'm gonna pull up. I'm gonna find something for you just to help out with some drink recipes. Got to show you that. Also joining, we got Jeffrey, JPNT17. Check out his Instagram, web shop, artist extraordinaire. He's super humble, so he's not going to really take that compliment too well. But all the visual art that you see around here goes credit to him. Down below, we got Southdown Leverworks. That's my homeboy, Dave. Everything you see in that image right there, he probably made.
Except for that one.
Okay, the Punisher hat is the only one he didn't make. But if he wanted to make a baseball cap in leather with the Punisher on it, he could absolutely do it. I've got some custom stuff, a bunch of nice hats, a custom lighter. And my brother loved his, by the way.
Good. I was going to ask about that. And I actually have a new something that I'd like all of the folks that are on Weigh-In Wednesdays to eventually get.
Oh, wait a minute. Let's. Okay.
Ooh.
Oh, we got the drink koozie. Check it out.
Now, this one is sized for the tall cans.
Okay.
But I do have a pattern for the smaller ones, and I'm working on making a pattern for the thin cans.
Okay. All right.
Because I know some people like their White Claws and
anyone here drinking White Claws or
Red
Trulies?
Not I.
I refuse on general principle.
My Red Bull. Yeah. Now Red Bull, I'm all on it. Yeah.
Okay.
I lived through
same
my
size
Zima
can.
Jolly Ranch days. I'm good. So
somehow we survived that, right?
yeah.
And rounding out
Zimas
the list
were
tonight.
Horrible.
Oh, they still are. Rounding out the list tonight, we got Jeff Miller. Jeff, what's going on, man?
Not much, man.
Definitely one of my Grown Eight Geeks, longtime friend, geek extraordinaire. That's his claim to fame. If it's video game, comic, movie, he's there for it. And
or it involves a sword or a dragon or
sword and sorcery, D&D especially. Most role playing.
Working on that.
Still, we're good. You know what? One day we'll get it figured out because I'll have a lot more time. Don't have it yet.
I understand. That's
as soon
where
as
my
I
main
get
problem comes in.
As soon as I get it, we're all over that.
I have about 45 minutes of free time a week right now, and most of it's for this call.
I think you could be anywhere in the world, but you chose to be with us, and I appreciate it, sir. So let's get right into it. We are talking tonight about Lord of the Rings on Amazon Prime, Rings of Power, new show. Not necessarily J.R.R. Tolkien, more like inspired by.
Yeah.
Because there's some things that don't exactly fit, but they're kind of there and kind of cool. So
the set pieces, though, you can tell they spent some money.
Oh yeah. The
costumes,
it's
the set pieces, the vistas, what your eyes feast on while you're watching.
Yeah, definitely one of the more expensive shows out. There was a whole talk about like, is this actually the current most expensive per episode?
I think just because they spent close to what was it? Over a quarter of $1 million, $1 billion, just to get the rights. So yeah. I think once you factor that in, yes, I believe it's up there.
Episode budget. Let's see. What is okay, Distractify has a little something on it. Lord of the Rings. Okay, Game Revolution per cost makes it the most expensive. Accounting for just the production budget of $465 million over the 8 episodes.
That's $500 million almost.
Yeah, and that's the production budget. That also doesn't include the $250 million it costs Amazon to secure the rights to make the series from the Tolkien estates. It brings the season 1 total cost to a mind-boggling $715 million. See, that goes back into that whole thing where I am like, how do you? They're literally looking at like 60 million per episode for Rings of Power.
Yeah, about 58 million.
How do you recover that as Amazon Prime with the episodes? Because how many new subscribers do you think you're getting in with this $99 to be Amazon Prime for Lord of the Rings? Really?
Yeah, but
they don't want us. They don't want us. They want our kids.
One of the few things you have to factor in with Amazon Prime, though, is a lot of people have Amazon Prime. They don't necessarily watch Amazon Prime.
That's what I'm saying. So now But what I'm
Regardless.
saying is now they are getting a generation of people who, like, it's not us who has Amazon Prime just because we can get our stuff in a day. It's like, Sam, your kids are like, I have Amazon Prime because I can get stuff in a day and I can watch all this dope stuff on Amazon Prime.
Ordered it
So
yesterday, here today.
so
I have a
they
hot
are
take.
the reason they're making this content is because they understand that content is the key to the youth. Like,
I would be
it's
interested to know how many actually watch versus how many are actual Amazon Prime members. Because I guarantee you, if I
Well,
was
I mean-
Amazon Prime, I would count both.
well, yeah, but there's going to be more Amazon Prime members who are in the older demographic just because of just demographics. Like, you're talking about this. I'm talking about the kid, the like 8 to 12 to like 25, 30-year-old. That's that coveted demographic that sets the trends. Now, once you get past from like 30 to 80, yeah, but you got like 50-year span you're dealing with. So naturally, you're going to have more consumers in that. And then they have more disposable income. So now Amazon has to use this. They're using this as a way to solidify their need and the necessity for them to the next generation, which is, we're going to give you the thing that you value the most, which is content. Our generation, we're going to give you the thing you value the most, which is like getting your stuff fast. We're going to be able to offer you whatever you want, and you can get it whenever, wherever, however fast. That's what our generation like values. But the next generation, they just value content. And so if Amazon wants to stay like in that cultural zeitgeist in like a meaningful way, they're going to have to like do stuff that appeals to that generation.
Well, Jeffrey, you have to admit that most of the things that we did when we were 25 and 30, we still do today. Shows, habits, comics, anime, a lot of the things that I fell in love with or found out in my late 20s, mid 20s, whatever, to now, and I'm 45, I still enjoy today.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, you still enjoy them, but it's like you're not making room for new stuff.
No,
because you found what you like. So Amazon is attacking them while you're building up the stuff of like, this is what I want. Like, I got pretty much all the streaming apps, but the ones I watch the most are the ones I've had the longest.
Sure.
So let me put in a hot take if you don't mind. It is very hard for me to think that Amazon's going to make money off of this show. They've spent so much money, and I don't think they did it to make money.
Hell no.
I think they did it to stay relevant.
Yeah. I mean, it falls into the same thing that Microsoft's Game Pass was for. You know, technically Microsoft loses money with Game Pass. $9.99 to have unlimited access to all these video games, but Microsoft can afford to take that loss. Amazon can afford to take the loss if they can keep people interested and keeping the subscription, because there's been a number of times where it's like, you know what, I don't watch this, I don't watch that, and people talk about like dropping something or letting one of the streaming services go, and then suddenly something comes out and you're like, oh well, I already have it, cool, I can access that and start watching it. And if Amazon is making themselves stay relevant by having something that looks big, and you know, because J.R.R. Tolkien, Lord of the Rings, all things along that line, that is going to be by itself an IP that holds weight. And the fact that Amazon, yeah, definitely, it's a flagship. And Amazon being the ones that have the rights to that, they're the ones that are going to be showing it. That's going to make them stand out as the go-to.
And Amazon has had a lot of flagship, like D&D wise.
Yeah.
Vox Machina.
Yeah.
Now they have Rings of Power. They're definitely catering to the sorcery fantasy base here lately.
Well, I think Netflix.
I mean, they have a lot of older stuff too. They have Beastmaster. They have a lot of other stuff on there too. That I have found myself logging into Amazon Prime a lot more often lately.
I mean, I was watching. Actually, I'd finished up the second episode of, the second episode of Rings of Power. I'd gotten through. Wife and I sat down. We watched the first episode. I got through about half the second, and since she had fallen asleep, I was like, oh, okay, I'll check it out later. Wanted to finish it up before we came on the show tonight, And after I finished it, Samaritan was like in the list, and I was like, you know what?
Next movie.
I said I was going to check that out, so I clicked on it and I just started watching it. You know what I'm saying?
And what do we say?
I started watching it.
Yeah, but I mean, so far, I mean, Sam, you're like me. You can watch 20 minutes of something and tell.
I'll finish it, but I've already figured. I'll finish it, but I've already figured out the story, and it is like super slow.
Okay,
it is super slow.
Slow, predictable, but is it good? That doesn't necessarily mean it's bad if it's slow and predictable. I can detach. I mean, I do that. It's like I just enjoy it.
I kept getting up to do the other things I needed to do, and I just kept hitting pause, come back, sit down, play again, letting it run through, pause, get up, go do something else. It hasn't had anything that's just like had me glued to my chair by any means.
Okay.
I mean, literally, imagine if. Okay, so take the movie Hancock.
Stallone for most of us is a draw,
and that is the draw in this. I will say that is the draw. Imagine if Sylvester Stallone had been presented Hancock, and then they saw how that was going to play out, so they had to revise the script. Okay. That movie is Samaritan. That's a good analogy, actually. The things that work for Will Smith in terms of a comedy would not have worked for Stallone. So they changed out enough of the story, but there's all the elements there, and I feel like there's a big twist they're going to try to drop, and I don't think it's going to be a twist when I see it. I think it's going to be exactly what I thought it was, and I feel like it's going to be predictable. So far, everything has been predictable, and I'm just waiting for them to get to that part. But that was after I finished up watching the second episode of Rings of Power, which comes out every Friday, I believe, is when all new episodes for that. So,
I won't get to watch any episodes until this Friday.
Until this Friday, okay.
Yeah, because I am going to get my Amazon Prime back Friday.
Okay.
Well, I guess that answers my question as to who is actually like getting Amazon Prime to watch this. They just made $99 off of you right there. See?
Oh no, I ain't fixing to pay the $99.
No, I pay monthly. Yeah. So,
but I mean, it's just right now it's not financially feasible.
Understood.
But in 14 weeks, that'll change.
Sounds fantastic. Looking forward to 14 weeks from now. But so far, let me say that Jeff, you've watched both episodes?
Yes.
Oh, what? Oh.
No.
You said Jeff, not Jeffrey. We know
you ain't
watching it, Jeffrey.
So
I will say, and here's a funny thing, because you made a comment earlier, Jeffrey, and I do want to kind of touch on that. It is very interesting because having watched all the Lord of the Rings and all of the Hobbits, yeah, there was a definite absence of a people, and given the uniqueness and the variety of all of the races, there could have been a nice bit of variety on screen. It was not there.
They're eating tree barks.
It has definitely focused on certain characters so far, but I'm waiting for episode 3 because episode 2, like, it focused on mainly one person. So
yeah. Well, what's really interesting is, I don't know. This is a weird perspective, but like, because I watched the first 3 Lord of the Rings movies, and I watched The Hobbit, and I watched the Hobbit trilogy and the Lord of the Rings trilogy, and I enjoyed both of them immensely.
And I have The Hobbit on in the background right now to catch up.
All of them were myself. Great. My problem is, now that I'm seeing this world that is so diverse and seeing all of this other variety, it's kind of misleading because, anytime you do a prequel and you try to improve what you might have missed in the original, kudos for not making the same mistake twice. But it's very weird because what happened to all these black people? That's just as concerning. So it's a, you know what I'm saying? It's a weird thing.
Lord of the Rings and Rings of Power, I have a feeling, aren't going to be a powerhouse for black actors. It's just,
but
Tolkien grew up in a different time period. It unfortunately,
even so, Peter Jackson could have did what Peter Jackson wanted to do at the time.
Jackson, like, okay, let me ask this: how much of the description of these characters is like talks about like their skin and what color their skin is, and like I know they'd be like he had knobby knees and a mess
Right.
upon a moppy mess upon his head and hard knuckles, but like
He was only 7 apples high and that sort of thing.
all white. Like Snow White went and she saw 7 white dwarves. You know what I mean? Like that's not how the story is told. So like if there is room to like adjust and adapt to be inclusive and it doesn't mess up the integrity of the story, it's just frustrating because the reality is like people hide behind the fact that they're like, we're trying to stay true to the manuscript. But then even when black people get cast as characters that were written as like darker skin in the book, then people are just like, well, why this is so woke? Like, it's like, fam, did you read the book? Like, when you read dark skin, you're thinking like olive, Mediterranean, Italian, not like black.
I
And
agree.
people got to just look at themselves and say like, none of your default characters in your mind ever go to black person, to the point where even when you read something that is written that the person is black, you just skip over that because that's just not how, that's not like part of like their imagination. But then they try to hide behind like what Tolkien intended. It's like, well, Tolkien not here. All right. Like,
Yeah. Now, see, Jeffrey, one of the few things that Tolkien didn't write Lord of the Rings and the Silmarillion and things like that for the story. He was a linguist. He invented Elvish languages and Orcish languages and all that kind of stuff, and then told a story through inventing these languages. But I agree with you. I would love some diversification. I would love to see some great actors, no matter what their skin color is, especially not white, to get into this. But after watching House of Dragons and all the blowback from the one black Targaryen, I was like, this still sucks that people think this way. Because when you read the book and they sit there and describe their hair and their eyes and the way they act and all this stuff, never says their skin color. But people are automatically,
I think writers do a
whitewashed
good
into thinking.
Well, no, I think writers do a good job to leave it open in some cases if the race of a person is not going to have any bearing on that character's development or their specific story or something like that, then you leave it open for interpretation for the reader, for them to make whatever they want that person to be. I'll admit that, I mean, I think it's pretty obvious when I sit down to read a book, if they don't give a very clear description, by all default characters in my head are black. That's default to me. And then I will say that there are some characters, hopefully I'm not putting my foot in my mouth, but there are some characters as they're written, there's a default for that character to be a particular race here, a particular race there. It's all kind of based on the description of the character and the way they lay it out. If you talk about like regional descriptions and things like that, there's so Robert Ludlum, one of my favorite authors, Anne Rice, one of my favorite authors. When you go through their books and you listen to the way those characters are described, in some cases, there is something specific about those characters. And a great example is when we talk about Akasha, Queen of the Damned, she describes Akasha. And the way she describes Akasha makes her sound Mediterranean. But then when you read the book and you realize that all of that took place on the continent of Africa, there's no question at that point that Akasha, plus her name's Akasha, there's no question that Akasha is in fact an Egyptian queen. If she's Egyptian, she's African. If she's African, she's black. And especially given the time period that they're referring to. So it is great when you have a little bit of openness to the characters where they can kind of be left to the interpretation of the reader, and the description is vague enough where it might describe something specific, but it leaves it available for you to decide. My problem, though, is when we get to something like this where we have House of Dragons, where we do see much more diversity. There was a little bit of mix and match here and there because like Pedro Pascal was in it, and you had, a number of black characters, Grey Worm, for example, and Lysandra. There were characters there, so we can't say there were no black people, but you did not see the black people in positions of prominence like you see on House of Dragons. So knowing that this is a prequel story, it's just a natural, like, well, what happened? Why aren't they here afterwards? And that's the only part of it that kind of, it's not really triggering, but it's just one of those things. It's like I can't help but to take note of that, because we have some great characters in the dwarvish wife. I love that character. She's amazing. I love
Made every scene she was in.
Fantastic. But of course, it's like thinking about it later, like, well, where are those characters? Where's her line go? And, why do we not continue on with those characters? So it kind of throws the diversity in a weird loop, because since they're doing a prequel, but it comes after the original, you're trying to correct the mistakes of the past. And we appreciate that. And as long as you do it in a way that doesn't feel like, I guess pandering, for lack of a better phrase, if it can truly be diversity for the sake of diversity, like the Harfoots, which I'm guessing are going to be the halflings or the hobbits. I haven't heard the word hobbit yet, but here are people who clearly look to be the hobbit folk. And
at least ancestors.
Right. At least these are the people who may develop and become the hobbits. There's a nice bit of variety there. I feel like we could have had more variety at the Shire. And there's no reason why we couldn't, given the characters as they were. There should have been some diversity there. It wasn't, and it's noted, but I appreciate Amazon trying to do better.
And see, I have to give props to you, Sam, and to Tracy, because back in the day when we played D&D or Rifts or any of that stuff, we turned a lot of stereotypes up on their head. Like we made drow, which are dark-skinned elves, we made them not evil.
Yeah.
Which they're typically evil and live underground and all these little certain things that they do. We turned a lot of those on our head. And that exposed me from a very young age to have more of an open imagination. I'm not going to say I don't have my prejudices. I grew up in the South after all. But when I watched movies like this, I thought the same thing. Like I literally watched The Dwarf Wife and thought, okay, let me see more of her, because every scene she was in, she outshone both of them.
Yeah.
So same thing with the Hobbit bloodlines. Like they take so much pride in saying they're a Saxville Baggins or they're this or they're a Harfoot, or let's see some black people as hobbits. Like there's got to be some. Everybody loves to eat.
It feels like this was like the last corner of white geekdom that black people dare not tread into. And now it's like when Tiger Woods showed up at the Masters and like everybody didn't know what to do, because it was just like, he's here and he's killing it. And then people start, like Fuzzy Zeller, start saying crazy stuff like, is he going to serve fried chicken at the dinner? And so that's just because it's like it's everywhere, right? Like we saw it on Obi-Wan with what's her name, Moses. She was playing first
sister.
Yeah, first sister.
Yeah, so we saw it with her. So it's like, okay, in outer space we can't do it. We see it with, even if you don't like Star Trek Discovery, some of the things that I've seen said about the woman who's playing like Captain Michael Burnham is like, it's like crazy, because it's like you're not even watching the same show as me if like that's what your problem is.
That's what you're focused on. Like I agree.
You don't like seeing, there's just people who like can't get over, like there's just this black woman that's telling everybody what to do now, and she's been right the entire time, like throughout the entire show. Even when she did stuff that led to crazy stuff, she was still right in like what she was trying to do, because she was right. But like nobody listened to her. And then when people finally started listening to her, she ended up like saving everybody. And people just, I don't know. I love it, but some people can't wrap their head around it. So it's hard sometimes, like as a black geek, because it's just like there's like, just make your own characters, but then people don't support that.
there's been a lot of stuff with the new Doctor that's coming out. There was a lot when they made the Doctor a woman. Now he's going to be a black man. Not only that, but he's going to be either gay or I don't bisexual something. The Doctor's never been straight to me.
No,
of course not.
Never been straight, especially with Captain Jack in the picture.
You know, like
Captain Jack would have slept with anything that had an orifice, for lack of a better word. Doesn't even have to be. I mean, I literally thought, all right, that's the right attitude to have in the 35th century or something. Like, you either get along or you don't. Whether you're a gelatinous mob or you got 7 legs or whatever, what's it matter as long as you have fun together? That was Captain Jack's attitude.
Yep.
He would kiss just about anything.
Yeah.
So
I mean, it's like even in that show, right? It's like when he had a black companion. It's like when you go on Doctor Who polls, it's like she's always like one of the lowest rated ones. I'm like, do you not remember what she did? Like she literally had to travel the entire world by herself to like spread the name of the Doctor so everybody would say his name at the same time to give him enough power to save like the entire world. So sorry she didn't fall in love with him like Rose, and it wasn't the sob story where they're trapped in different dimensions from each other in the Cybermen. It's like sorry you couldn't have that. But like when it comes down to kicking ass and like being on mission,
she was on point.
She was on point, and the one now, the Indian girl that was on the last one with Jodie Whittaker, she be on point.
yes, actually, Jodie Whittaker to me was good as a Doctor, but not necessarily great. I still am partial to David Tennant, Matt Smith, but the companions made that show for me.
Yeah, David Tennant is he's
I'm a fan of his. I'm a fan of his, man. He's in Harry
Unfuckwittable.
Potter. He's in a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm a fanboy, though.
I've been with the Doctor since number 4, so
damn.
like David Tennant ain't even in the mix.
Who was the Scarf Doctor? That was number 8, right?
Yes,
7, 8, something like that.
he was one of my favorite.
That's when I tuned into the Doctor. So
I was way late. I didn't start watching the reboot.
Doctor's been around for 50 years in one form or another.
I just,
and honestly,
Lord of the Rings verdict. I ain't going back to watch.
I can't watch the black and white ones, but I've watched a lot of the older ones.
And honestly, that's one of my favorite things about the Doctor is the fact that Doctor Who has always progressed with the times.
Facts.
And I mean, it's like from the very beginning, he was ahead of his time. But he was from an alternate world and an alternate future where they had already dealt with all the crap we're dealing with. So, of course, he's ahead of the times. And that's what I love about the show.
The main thing for me about the Doctor, not besides that, was the Doctor Who to me was one of the first shows that broke up the human form, 2 arms, 2 legs as an alien, with the Daleks and that and things like that. They were one of the first times that I thought that an alien being from somewhere else could look other than 2 arms, 10 fingers, 10. I mean, they might have antenna or weird ears or be blue up until that point. Star Trek did a lot of that. They're like, oh, we're just gonna make this girl green.
Yeah.
So Doctor Who broke up the human form to where you actually had to think and be like, wow, okay, this is an alien.
So I was trying to pull up an image that had just a listing of all of the Doctors because there have been so many, and I think it's
well, aren't we on 14 right now?
We are.
Well, this is just like,
oh, they included the black lady. Good.
Yeah, I mean, I went through about 10 images, but I found one that had most everybody here, and I think there's
more. This is only 10.
Right. I'm like, but just again to show the diversity and whatnot.
9 doesn't get any love. 9 has never gotten any love.
I mean, he was for a season, and the season wasn't very good. To be fair,
but he had to bring it back though.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean,
He had a lot of work in front of him compared to some of the other.
To be fair, the next season they gave them a much bigger CGI budget because that first few episodes, like the one with the like stretched out skin, and then the one with the like the aliens inside the prime minister's house.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you this, Jeffrey, and I'll ask David since he's probably a bigger Doctor Who fan than I am. I kind of like the low budget of Doctor Who.
Oh yeah. I mean, it's always
it started
been
as a kids show. Semi-kids show for older kids and stuff like that. That's part of its draw for me is the fact that it's not a big budget show. They have to be imaginative and come up with different ways to do things that Amazon Prime or Disney, they can just throw money at it until it looks good.
Yeah.
And see, I have always
There's another one that's got a good
enjoyed the work of puppeteers.
Yes, Muppets, Fraggles, different things like Sesame Street. That's a much, there you go.
I like puppets.
But yeah, the top row, third one over, that's the first Doctor that I saw.
And see, I'm the one next to him with the big scarf. I remember him. So, and I've watched some of the older ones, and then I was with all the new stuff.
I became aware of the show and like knew that it was a thing that people watched and whatnot, probably around this guy. I was not a big, it's not, Doctor Who is still not one of those things where it's like I make it a point to watch, but of course that would be something like I would hear David talking about it, and that would be like, what's this show called, Doctor? Because like even with that, and this is why it's important to have like a good set of geek friends, because like I would have missed out on Highlander had it not been for Dave. It was because it was one of those things where it was like, okay, yeah, whatever.
You still have all those, don't you?
Oh yeah, they are very safe over on that shelving unit there. I have the entire series.
I'm still mad at Amazon Prime because you can watch Highlander 1 for free, but all the others cost money. And I was ready to binge.
Oh, the first one free, baby.
I know. I thought about. I was like, I'm not going to pay for 2. I'm not paying for 2, but 3, 4, 5, 6, I might pay for those. Like, so 2's the only one of Highlander.
You gotta watch 2 with Sean Connery coming back to life.
I just don't like the way they tried to explain everything. Leave it open. Let me use my imagination.
Yeah, the whole alternate world thing was just weird as hell.
So Mario Van Peebles got back to their roots, and then what was it? When they brought the crossover with the guy from the series, Adrian
Dorn.
Yeah. So I love the series. Didn't like the spinoff with the girl that much. It just wasn't that great. They didn't have strong acting.
Sam has that one too.
Oh wow!
Because I had the entire series plus Raven, and he now has them all because I was going to just walk away from them in a house I was living in, and he's like, "No, that's not going to happen."
No, can't let you do that, brother. Gotta hold some of this stuff. So it needs a good home. We'll put it in the museum. That's what we're gonna call the office. It used to be called the office. I think we're just gonna change the name, call it the museum. I have to update the museum and revamp it a little bit.
Speaking of which, I just found out about this yesterday, and I looked it up to find out the dates and all that. They're doing a Harry Potter experience. It's coming to Atlanta on October 21st.
There's a Stranger Things experience coming to Atlanta too, and I'm thinking I might have to make a road trip because y'all have a couple of things going on down there that I'm like, all right, I might have to come spend the weekend, see some friends, do an escape room, go to this experience, whatever. Like, some of them are escape rooms, some of them are experiences. I'm not quite sure of.
Hey, let me know. I still got another week I can take off.
All right, I got about 6 days left of PTO, so.
Let's see. The Stranger Things experience Atlanta opens October 22nd. It'll be in Pullman Yards, Building 1, Rogers Street Northeast. So that's October 22nd. And you said the Harry Potter experience?
Mm-hmm. It's October 21st. It's only like $30.
You know what?
For the
That
ticket.
sounds like that could be an interesting weekend.
That sounds like a hardcore weekend right there.
Mhm.
October 21st and 22nd. So yeah, we could probably. That's a Friday and a Saturday, or if depending on how the shows run or whatnot, maybe a Saturday and Sunday kind of thing. Probably make that happen.
Yeah, because I'm sure it's not going to be one day, and the opening day at both is going to be insane.
Yes.
I mean, hell, opening weekend at both is going to be insane.
Yeah.
This is Atlanta. This is where they hold Dragon Con. So there's a good number of geeks already here.
Oh yeah.
They are definitely here. And then of course we got all the transplants. So let me take that off.
That's one of the few things that surprised me about moving to Tennessee is the number. Like I know, Sam, you remember seeing the local games, CM games that I have at my mall.
Yeah.
With the stand-up Halo and the Batman, and I was very impressed with how much of an underground geek current there is here, because I expected to move up to redneck country. So I expected there not to be any geek stuff. I was going to have to drive 2.5 hours like we used to have to do back in the day. If we wanted to go to a game store, we had to go to Alpharetta or somewhere that was across Atlanta until Dragonware Hobbies opened up. I lived there. In Conyers, across the railroad tracks there in Old Town.
Mm-hmm.
That was the first place we could sit down and play D&D. And then David running his Magic tournaments in the back of the Kroger there. I mean, So, and then we would hang out at Microplay, and you and Tracy would go out to lunch. And
let's say Microplay was one of the first.
We lived in that square.
We did for quite some time. So do you think that so these experience things, we'll have to come back and revisit those, because I'm curious as to even what the hell they are. Because I have
experience leaves a lot of open ground.
Like
I've had
the Stranger Things experience. I mean, if it's something that's themed, I kind of get that. So if it's like a Stranger Things escape room, you're gonna look like maybe you're inside the 80s asylum kind of thing.
This is what it is. It's a place for people to pay, and they're gonna come and they're gonna take pictures to put on Instagram.
Yep.
Okay. Yeah.
That's
okay. Cool.
That's the bad side of the experience. I'm hoping it's more than that. I want to walk into an escape room and it looked like the Upside Down and hear Metallica in the background. So
there was absolutely a thing that came. And literally the whole point of it was for you to have all these like specially themed rooms to take pictures in. That's all it was.
Museum.
The what?
It's a selfie museum.
That's it. Selfie museum.
So like different ones that are just like pop-ups, and they just go around and people pay and take pictures.
Come in and get some amazing pictures. I know they have like the mirror. My daughter was trying to go to one. And they have like the mirror room. They have like I think she was saying something like a sunflower room where it's like everything is yellow and they've got sunflowers all over it. It's all decorative, blah, 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 blah. So,
I went to Japan. It was basically like this thing where you go in and it was just like all these it's like this completely immersive like experience, but it was like people just taking videos of themselves and each other, and like there's different videos on the wall playing and interactive stuff. I think I have it separated on my Instagram in like one of the little story things. But yeah, like that's what it's for. It's not some like, I doubt it's gonna be an escape room. I don't want to burst that bubble, and I'm hoping for your sake that there is an escape room, because that does sound awesome for you. I'm not trying to go just.
I mean, I can read the little blurb here, but I feel like I talk a lot as it is. But go and check it out. It seems like there's going to be some other stuff there. It says you'll start in Hawkins Lab. Use your powers to. It's a story-driven interactive adventure. Use your powers to save the day, along with the characters. Head over to Mixtape to enjoy a throwback to the 80s and iconic locations such as Scoops, some other places, and of course, take pictures in the buyer's living room in an 80s style photo booth or with the Demigorgon. So there may be some. I mean,
they only said pictures in the description.
Right, that's one of the things. That's one of the things you can do. There's other things. So I don't know. We'll see.
If you want to and think them teenage girls ain't gonna be taking pictures.
Oh yeah. I mean, that's
Or
trust me. I have an older teenage girl. She's 21, but she's just a big teenager at this point. 21 is not the same 21 anymore.
No.
But yeah, that opens October 22nd. I don't know. Maybe we'll have to schedule something around that. Wear a Grown A Geek shirt there and take all my pictures at the experience. We'll see. I don't know.
Oh, and the Harry Potter one is actually the expedition or exhibition.
Exhibition.
That to me means you're going to be able to take pictures, and they're going to have stuff from the movies in display cases for you to take pictures in front of.
I don't know. When I was in Florida, like going to Universal, they have the Harry Potter immersion that's there at Universal. That's pretty nice. They've got a couple of rides that are themed, but being able to walk around the square, the dragon comes out, breathes fire at different times, and if you're lucky, you catch it. Apparently, it's a big deal. I saw it twice while we were there. I thought it was just something that happened on cue, but there are people who had been waiting this whole time with their phone and just waited to catch it. And so it doesn't happen a lot, apparently. And it's a big deal when it does. There was the butterbeer you could try. You walk through, you go to the different bookstores. You're in the dining hall. One of the restaurants there looks like the cafeteria at Hogwarts. So, I mean, I think if you really want to get that full immersion, there's places that are better suited for it. But the local experience, if Harry Potter's your jam and you want to get out one weekend and do something that's pretty cool, Harry Potter themed, then boom, the Harry Potter, the exhibition would be the way to go. And there seems to be a lot about that, and that is available. And of course, you can register for news and updates and all that kind of stuff. They have a whole website available and shop the collection, because that's the important thing. You got to buy stuff while you're there.
Oh yeah.
Because if you don't buy stuff, they can't keep paying to be there. So somehow we're going to segue this back into Lord of the Rings and Rings of Power. The Rings of Power, of course, there's the whole nice little poem that opens up the trilogy, Lord of the Rings, when you go to watch Fellowship of the Ring. There's this nice little poem they talk about, and basically the Rings of Power were the 7 rings for the dwarves, the 3 rings for the elves, the 9 rings for the world of man, and Sauron and his 1 ring. This is the story of how those rings came to be, what led up to it, how that all worked. I am definitely curious to see how we're going to get there. Everybody have a network.
Little tidbit though.
What's up?
The 3 elven rings are not connected to the 1 ring. They were forged separately.
And they will probably go into that more in depth, but yes, Celebrimbor.
I mean, they've just introduced Celebrimbor. He walked to the Dwarven Kingdom with them, and I was hoping he was going to go inside, but then he just left, and I was like, dude, he got like 5 minutes of screen time. But the
fact that they dropped his name and had him in there, for those people who played, what was the game, Shadow of Mordor, you've already heard a lot about that character, and they kind of dive into it there, where they talk about him forging the rings and the 3 rings that he made. And even, when you start to deep dive into it, you come to realize that the elves, once Sauron was trying to use his ring to connect to the elven rings, the elves became aware and they took their rings off so that they could not be controlled. But that is I won't say that's advanced Tolkien. That's probably intermediate Tolkien. That's something you would gather right away. And so I'm curious as to how the Amazon Prime series is going to address and kind of get into that.
See, if I'm not mistaken, welcome back, Jeffrey. With the rings,
he was trying to miss out the Lord of the Rings stuff. Don't think that was accident.
Oh no, I disconnected. Oh.
Hey, I saw him froze up. So
yeah,
I came right back.
He did, and Ty is having a network shortage at the moment, so hopefully he gets back. But
that's what happened to me a couple weekends ago, where everything just stopped. and I was like, okay.
I mean, hell, it happened
and then
to
all
me
of a
one
sudden my
time when I
streaming
was
stopped, and
happened one time when I was hosting the show and the shit died. So that's the thing about a live show, it happens.
Yep.
But what were you saying?
If I'm not mistaken, the only ring that Sauron actually made was his own.
Correct, and his
And
was
he
forged in.
Used that to link to all the other ones that everybody else made.
correct.
Right. And
So-
I'm not Stephen Colbert when it comes to Lord of the Rings by any means. That man is impressive.
You come into my house?
That man, I'm sorry, but I have literally rewatched and watched. Like anytime anybody challenges, I'm like,
yes,
because his knowledge of Lord of the Rings and Silmarillion and stuff is amazing.
It is.
He knows names and places
confusing.
and dates, and
I'm
not that good.
I'm sorry, I'm not even that good with Harry Potter.
I don't think I'm that good with any damn thing. I mean, I'm like, there's some things I can like talk in depth and I can cover a wide variety of subjects. But goodness, the way he can go in on just Lord of the Rings and Tolkien in general.
He knows ancestries and who were the parents of so and so, and yeah, it's impressive.
Yeah. So I'm so far I'm enjoying this show. I think it's going to be 8 episodes. We're 2 episodes in, so I am curious to see how we're going to fast forward to. Again, I think we were talking about this when I first brought up House of Dragons, which we'll touch on here in a moment. But whenever you do a prequel, of course, I'm always curious how you're going to get to the stuff people know. How do you get yourself from this time period that you set? If you're saying, okay, this took place 1,000 years before the events of Lord of the Rings. Because just in, I think between like The Hobbit and Fellowship of the Ring, we expect that takes place about what? 100 years?
85 to 100, somewhere around
there. So right around 85 to 100 years. Bilbo was actually in possession of the ring for about 50 years. Gollum had the ring. He had the one ring for like right at 500 years. So is this going to be everything that leads up to Gollum? Are we going to get to where the ring gets lost with Gollum? But then how long was the ring lost before Gollum found it? There's a lot of questions in there. And so I'm always curious because you want to leave yourself enough. You want to set it far enough back to leave yourself open to maybe season 2, maybe season 3, if it turns out to be really good, really popular. But you also have to like have a point where you can cut off because you can't go but so far. You know where the end has to be.
And that was my question from day one is when they announced the Rings of Power, I was like, all right, are they going to end with it dropping into the riverbed and being lost? Or are they going to end with Gollum pulling it out of the riverbed?
Smeagol pulled it out of the riverbed.
Smeagol, right. Yes. You're right. Gollum is the more recognized name for those who don't know. But either way would be awesome to me. Like either they can do 5, 6, 7 seasons and end with Smeagol pulling it out of the riverbed and it leading into the intro to the 3rd Lord of the Rings movie, or they can have it slowly float to the bottom of the riverbed, and then you know what happens after that. So,
float to the bottom, or actually as it's floating, roll credits. You know what I'm saying? That kind of thing. And I think either way would work. It's just a matter of, are we going to cover everything up to that point? Because there's not a definitive timeline within that. And given the characters that they've already kind of shown and introduced, there's a lot that they could do because, the Meteor Man, are we like, who do you think the Meteor Man is, Jeff?
Me?
Robert Townsend.
So that's why I don't know. You brought up Meteor Man earlier, and I literally pictured the movie in my head.
The man who fell from the sky. I will be clear. Yes, Robert Townsend will always be the Meteor Man.
You talk about the stranger?
The stranger who fell from the sky.
Yeah, when I watch a lot of stuff with subtitles, and when it comes up, it says "the stranger" in all caps. I'm not sure yet. I'm intrigued. I don't know if he's another Valar, like Gandalf and certain other characters that have shown up in Lord of the Rings. A lot of people don't connect the fact that the Valar in Lord of the Rings are demigods or gods in their own right.
Right.
So that I can remember multiple times having to explain how did Gandalf come back to life.
Well, it's the fact that he didn't die. Right. That's the thing. It's
Yeah.
not that he came back to life. He technically didn't die. It's a whole thing, but that's
Physical manifestation, soul.
right. We have to get into a whole other conversation
no,
for that.
it's a whole nother level. I agree.
He just ascended from gray to white.
Correct. But see, even that you have to then break down and explain. I'm thinking that in order to merchandise this and make it popular with people so that they will latch on and be more interested, I'm thinking that is Gandalf myself. That is who I would like for it to be. And just because that's who I want it to be, it won't be. It'll have to be somebody else. But
ooh, I hadn't considered that option though. The very first manifestation of I hadn't even thought of that.
And the reason
I've been trying to keep an open mind. So
it's only because the very first person that he sees and interacts with are Harfoots. And if we allow ourselves to let the Harfoots evolve into hobbits, that would show why he has that fondness of hobbits because of Nori. And it just makes too much sense to be anything else.
You're blowing my mind right now because I hadn't even thought of that option.
This just
and blow her mind too.
Hadn't even thought about that, but I'm going to go back and rewatch
because I know
the first
about
two episodes now.
Yeah, so I mean, if you just rewatch the second episode, you'll be able to kind of pinpoint it and see what I'm looking at and what I'm saying. Galadriel, interesting character. The guy who I actually thought I had to research this character a couple times because the Elven guard who's talking with Bronwyn, I literally thought that was like I knew it wasn't Grey Worm, but I thought it was the guy who was in Detroit Being Human, the actor Jesse Williams. I thought it was him. It's not him, but it looks like him. So, of course, that whole story, it's interesting sometimes because at the end of shows now, they show you like this season on Lord of the Rings, Rings of Power. They show you all this stuff that happens throughout the season. They give you these clips. And sometimes that's really, really bad to do at the end of an episode because if you kind of leave on a cliffhanger and then you show clips of stuff later on in the season, you just ruined your own cliffhanger.
And see, that falls under trailers for me. I literally skip those. I've been trying not to research anything.
I am definitely getting to the point where I am like that
4
first
or 5
teaser,
episodes in. Yeah, I might look some stuff up.
No, that first teaser, just let me know that it's coming, and that's probably all I'm going to watch because But I mean, even now, like we see Galadriel in Elrond. You know what I'm saying? Like, it doesn't matter what Galadriel does. I'm not concerned. There is no fear of imminent danger when it comes to Galadriel because at some point we're going to have her and everyone will find me beautiful. Like, we can't have that scene if there's any real danger in this series. So stop it with making it seem like something's going to happen. You're not building any tension with that. Just get through the story with her. Show me why it's important.
When they drop certain names, Elrond, Galadriel, I'm like, okay, we're gonna see them later. So,
right? Like I almost don't care about their story because I know where they end up. So
what else were we talking about that with? Where was
Rogue One.
There was, huh? Yeah,
Rogue One. I mean, damn near any prequel.
Yeah,
pretty much any prequel. Now, as we're talking about prequels, this is a perfect segue as we get into House of Dragons. Because House of Dragons is doing a slightly better job of establishing their lineage and the way everything works. Because I heard some names. I heard Lannister this last episode. I was like, he's a Lannister. I heard Baratheon.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? And hearing the way that what I like about this show more than Game of Thrones so far is that you get enough action to see like that it's there and know that there's something taking place because Matt Smith did his thing on this last episode. Kudos to him. But the political drama of the show is what is actually carrying this show for me.
And see, I'm just waiting for I'm waiting for the first dragon fight. I'm not gonna lie.
You know,
multiple dragons owned by different Targaryens and various people, and there's wild ones as well. I want to see dragon fight dragon.
I think a dragon fight would, dragon fight would be. And truthfully, you even have to be clear, because looking at some of the different dragons, they're not all technically dragons. But we're not gonna go that far.
No, I agree.
How are they not all technically dragons?
So a dragon, David, real quick, all right.
I guess we are going to do it. Go ahead.
Well, I mean, I can do it real quick. House of dragons, their front claws are part of their wings, which technically would make them ribbons or verns, whereas a dragon typically has 4 legs and wings.
Except there are serpentine dragons with no wings,
which are usually Chinese mythology.
But they're
can just fly.
Dragons.
There are
no
different
matter what
types.
They look like. Doesn't matter what type.
The funny thing about dragons, though, is they exist in almost every culture in some form or that. And I honestly, from a real world perspective, I think that's dinosaurs. Those ancient cultures found huge bones. They didn't know how to explain.
There were probably, like there's different types, and then given that you have and actually I'm looking for the image here, because I'm going to open this image and we'll share this on screen just to make it clear so folks know what the hell they talk about.
Yeah,
I'm sure some people
in
know.
D&D you have ribbons, you have dragons,
he knows
drakes,
this.
He knows
this.
Dragons.
Yeah, you know this.
So. I can't help it. I like dragons. I'm sorry. I can't help it.
But no, honestly, it does make a difference.
I don't like dragons at all.
Some are intelligent, some are dumb, some are animalistic. So it all depends on what you want to do with it.
So just like right here, like you have wingless dragons, which are these are probably your dinosaurs right here. These are just the big ass.
Who would want to be a wingless dragon?
I mean,
an alligator.
Or you know what? Even a no.
I'm saying if you was writing a story about a dragon,
Komodo dragon.
Why would you just be like,
Komodo dragons ain't got no wings, Jeffrey?
Yeah, that's a real animal, though. If you're writing a story and you're like, I'm going to put a dragon in here, but it's not going to have no wings.
They have to sprout their wings. They have to get them. But
some Rudolph the
Red-Nosed Reindeer.
And see, sometimes and this one, okay, so look right here where it says, this one here, the worms. Notice it has no wings. And if you think about oh, you know what? And here's a perfect example. I'm hidden by the Grown Egg Geeks brand right now. But Dragon Ball Z, every time that dragon comes out to grant a wish, he has no wings, but we still acknowledge him as a dragon. So it is one of those things where there are types of dragons.
He's Japanese, not Chinese.
But and there you go. But therein lies the point where all bits are bots, but not all bots are bits.
A lot of Asian dragons don't have wings.
All of these are dragon
wishes. They could shape change.
Though what's funny is none of them have wings, but all of them fly.
Correct. I was about to say, and that's the thing.
Regardless
of whether you have wings, because dragons are mythical creatures, so it's magic that makes them fly.
Yeah,
and that's now some of them obviously you see them flap the wings, and that's how they fly. But what is the
That's one thing I liked about Game of Thrones is when they showed Daenerys's dragons, you could see the 2 little holes on the side of the mouth where apparently some kind of expectorant type chemical came out, mixed, and created flame.
Yeah.
Whereas some just breathe fire. I always like a semi-realistic touch, or where they try to at least explain it, I guess.
I mean, the same way a lizard, or not a lizard, a snake would have venom, and they have the little venom ducts behind, and they, extract, it comes out. So, or any animal that can spit and that sort of thing. I'm thinking Jurassic Park little things where they have the little
velociraptors.
Not even the velociraptor.
No, I think it's called a Dilophosaurus or something like that.
The little guy that has
that goes after the guy in the raincoat and spits in his face. Yes,
those guys. You know what I'm saying? Having those glands that are specifically designed for being able to spit.
Which, I mean, even in real life, you have lizards around that they spit their own blood at predators.
Mm-hmm.
So they're tiny, they spit, and their blood is acidic or venomous or poisonous. So I am enjoying House of Dragons a little bit more than Rings of Power right now, for the simple fact of House of Dragons is focused on the acting and the characters. Rings of Power, I watched the first 2 episodes, and it was much more about, oh my gosh, that waterfall is beautiful, or her climbing that snow mountain is amazing, or they really make you feel like you're there, kind of thing. I'm that's why I'm holding judgment on Rings of Power, because I feel like it's going to be a couple episodes before I make a judgment on the actors / characters. Whereas House of Dragons, I got my clear favorites already.
Oh yeah,
Matt Smith, Rhaenyra Targaryen, even the young wife of the king or whatever. Like, I predict she's going to be worse than Cersei.
You know,
she's going to be up there.
I think that she is going to.
She's going to do some dirty stuff before it's all over.
No, I think the only thing that's going to be dirty is, given that we've, let me change out and put our spoiler banner up, because I'm about to. We're gonna talk.
Yeah,
I've
been trying to keep it to predictions / personal opinions, not necessarily what you see in the show.
Right, and I mean, but in order to make this next point, I do have to reference something that was in show. So this is your spoiler warning right here. Dave, are you caught up?
On House of Dragons, yes.
Okay, normally I would ask Jeff, but he doesn't care, and I can't really spoil this for him. He's mentioned that, so
love the glance over, Jeffrey. Love
right.
it.
I mean, I still think that this would be the one he would watch, and I would actually encourage this would be the one over Game of Thrones.
I'm gonna watch it, but I just don't care if you spoil it.
Right, and that's what I'm saying. Like, that's the only reason. I'm just letting the people know that's the only reason I didn't check with you on this. But given that the king just told Rhaenyra that he would not usurp her, and that he was not going to, since he now has his son Aegon. Now, we know in terms of lineage that we've heard Aegon's name before. And so, like, we know at some point that's got to happen. But it was when the Hand was telling his daughter, which irony in itself, when the Hand was telling his daughter, like, you should talk with the king to make sure that he makes that change and that he names Aegon the heir. Like, it'll bring calmness and peace to the kingdom and blah, 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 blah. She already knows where her husband's mind is at. That is going to be not really her downfall. That is going to be her evil turn. Because since she and Rhaenyra were friends, first of all, it's that whole weird, like, I was your best friend, now I'm your stepmom. That's a weird dynamic. And of course, we're trying to, we're seeing them kind of get over that part. And she's just doing her thing as queen. And at any point, if she chooses, she can give royal decree and make something happen. Just like when she had the lute player leave. Queen trumps princess. When she convinces Aegon, or when she convinces Viserys to remove Rhaenyra as the heir and name Aegon as the new heir, that's going to be the breaking point. And I think that's when we're going to see Rhaenyra leave. She's going to get the hell out of the kingdom. She's going to marry off just to be gone. And that's where we're going to see the queen. She's going to regret having done that, because now she's going to feel like her son is in danger. Everybody's going to want to try to take out the kid, because if you take out the kid, then, he won't be king and they can go elsewhere. And I think that
I like that level of danger, though, because when Viserys named her heir, that created a danger for the brother, and he left. And now you're wondering when he's going to come back in and try to do something. And now he's married the queen, and she has a son, and she's going to name him as heir, which creates a danger for her. So it's one of those, I'm interested to see which domino falls first.
I think we're going to see Daemon return if Aegon, he likes Rhaenyra enough to not bring harm to her. He has no
directly.
I think even indirect.
Maybe
you know
through inaction.
I don't think he has enough spite to be like. He's also kind of indicated he doesn't really care to be king. He just wanted to be on the court, work with his brother. He could have been the hand. Go ahead.
Like he stole the egg. When she showed up, he gave it. But until then, he was ready to kill to keep that egg.
True. And I think the relationship that they had, because they showed in the early in the episode of the first one, they showed the relationship that the two of them had. You know what I'm saying? And it almost seems like, because she's the daughter, and of course she would have been no one of any import at the time. He's the brother. He would have been no one of any import at that time. They had a relationship that was unique to them. When she shows up, and he was even saying, like, I'm the person that you should be mad at because I'm the one that took your airness away. What's the right word for that? I'm the one who interrupted your lineage to the throne. So if you're going to be mad at anybody, be mad at me. And, he kind of looks at it. He knows that it is her that he would have to go through. It's not worth it to take her out to become king.
I know they're uncle and niece, but I get much more of a older brother, younger sister vibe.
Exactly.
And that's from the Targaryen intermarriage, like.
Well, see, we don't even know that they've gone to that part yet. Now they do want to have the strong bloodlines, and so that's why the one guy is continuing to try to present. It's like, oh, it has your cousin's blood. That's strong Targaryen and Valerian blood. It's and that's just weird. But I'm really glad dude didn't marry that 12-year-old.
Didn't the hand try and convince him to have her marry her brother?
Not convinced to marry, but to betroth them, which would be the intention of marriage. But given that it is his second name day, I am curious how they would have presented conceiving heirs at that point. Now, if she is betrothed to Aegon, that means when he comes of age, she does not have to worry about marrying anybody. She will have to marry Aegon once he becomes king. In the meantime, if Aegon, now of age, should marry someone else, the betrothment means nothing. And it was literally just a ploy to stop people from trying to court her, since she didn't want that, and the king didn't want to really pay attention to it.
Did anybody else pick up on Damon's wife when he said that she was with child? That glance, like, oh, I stole the egg because she's pregnant. She had that sideways glance of like,
that wasn't his wife though. That's his mistress,
concubine.
Oh yeah,
but he's supposed to be marrying her, and she's supposed to be with child, and that's why he took the egg.
Yeah,
right.
But when he said all this in front of her to Rhaenyra, she's in the background behind him, and she shot him this look like, what? Like, that's not what's happening at all. I'm not having kids.
That's news to me.
So, right, exactly. There's a lot of things that I think with House of Dragons, the acting is with the politics and stuff like that is such a subtle level in some scenes that you almost have to see it twice to pick up on some of the background actors and the way they look when certain things are said, because you're not going to pick up on those the first time through because you're focused on the main people in the scene.
True.
So
yeah, it's definitely going to be a show that you're going to have to watch multiple times to pick up on everything.
Yeah, I do tend to not do anything else when it's on. That way I can just sit and watch the screen. I do like all the people who are, at the table talking and that sort of thing. Everybody's interaction, everybody has opinions. I'm definitely intrigued by the people that the king actually confides in and who he talks to, who he listens to. Sir Kristen, I think that's going to be a dope character. And I was really waiting for that to, since Rhaenyra has a direct hand in the station of Sir Kristen, he, of course, has devoted his life as part of the King's Guard to protecting her. So that's her personal bodyguard.
Mhm.
And
I think she's gonna marry him.
I'm waiting to see the Well, see, I don't think because of his station that she would be eligible to marry him.
I don't think she's gonna give a shit.
She won't, but she would have to almost renounce her station in order to be able to marry down, because as a princess, she can't just like pick him and he be elevated up and allowed to marry her. Like it has to be a lord. I don't know the customs, so don't let me say that that's right or wrong, but I feel like it has to be at least a lord in order. Now, if his station gets elevated prior to, then yeah.
Now, I do have an interesting mystery / question. Have you noticed when the small council sits down, they put that marble thing in the little holder before they actually start the meeting? What's with that? What's going on with that? Like, what's the marble? What's it signify? Like, the meeting can start now? Like, what happens if you forget your marble? Like, oh, I left it in my other doublet. Like, do you have to go back and get it? Like,
you can't be a part of the meeting. You know, it's like a challenge coin. Like, you know, you don't have your challenge coin, you can't be in this meeting.
It's not something you saw in Game of Thrones. So, and with House of Dragons, when they sit down and they all kind of like lock it in, and then the meeting starts, I'm like, okay, please explain what that signifies to me. What tradition is that? Where does that come from?
Maybe they got rid of it. Maybe they got rid of it when they got rid of all the black people before.
Got rid of good traditions with the bad ones.
The black people took all the marbles and
You know what? You know what? I'm leaving. I'm taking my marbles with me. Like,
I'm taking yours too. We ain't doing this no more.
I'm actually wondering if, because the Mad King was a Targaryen, right?
Yes.
So I'm wondering if something with the demise of the Targaryen clan made that go away. That might be a Targaryen thing.
Oh, the madness? Yeah. I mean, they intermarried, brother and sister.
Well, no. The marble thing.
Oh,
no,
true.
No, I think that's one of those things, and I think the biggest difference is probably going to be if you look at it now when he sits down at the small council.
But the Hand even had one. He's not Targaryen,
right?
They all like set.
Well, no, I think even beyond that, it is just when they sit down at that table to talk, these are people talking to the king. We see in later times, it is the king telling people what is. You know what I'm saying? Like when King Baratheon was there and, you know, the Lannister was the Hand, it was just like, and then after it became Sean Bean's character, Jon Snow's daddy.
Crap. No, I feel
anyway, when that guy, you know, when he sat there and he
I always think
the
Sean
Hand,
Bean myself. So
right, Stark. When Stark had the Hand and
Ned Stark.
Right, when Ned Stark had the Hand, when he was the Hand and he sat there on the council, you know what I'm saying? You had the Master of Coin, you had the Master of this, you had the Master of that. And it was basically, this is what the king wants. I'm telling you all, go make it happen. We'll sit and discuss what needs to be discussed. But the king wasn't sitting in on those meetings. The king was, you know what I'm saying? Like, this seems more of this king seems a little bit more approachable. You know what I'm saying? Like, people talk to him, they let him know, they give their counsel.
He doesn't want to hear his opinion come out of their mouth. He wants to hear their opinion.
And maybe that's what it is that marble signifies, hey, we're all on the same level.
We can speak openly without fear of retribution. I've considered that. So, but I'm interested to see if they still, because they kind of downplay it in the second episode, but in the first episode it was very obvious. They all stood there. The king comes in. The king locks his marble in. They all put their marble in. The king sits down. Then they're allowed to sit down. I was like, okay, this is some kind of thing. And the second one, they kind of all just come in, sit down, and put their marble in. So I'm like, okay. So I'm just interested. That's my minor tidbit from the first two episodes. I'm interested to see what they do with that. Whether it goes away in later episodes and it's just some weird custom, or if they actually explain it.
Yeah. So. I'm with you. I'm enjoying House of Dragons a little bit more right now. I did appreciate having 2 opening episodes for Lord of Rings, Ring of Power, just to kind of jump right in and get to it. What else was watched last week? We Harley Quinn.
Yes.
Another episode of Harley Quinn. I love that they.
I haven't caught up on that yet, but
I love that they just went over and over and over and basically said the same thing we've said. I feel like that's a in joke right there, kind of a meta thing where they're like,
Right.
how many times do we have to see this?
Your boy is sick in the head.
Yeah. I mean, and it shows, and it's that instead of like remembering all the other things, this is the only memory he brings up. And when you go through just about any comic run, no matter what he does, it always comes back to that moment, that every character arc that he has, every time he talks, it's always that moment. So yeah, he's stuck in that one moment. And
Psycho did reference that he's part of the 0.01% of people that can really resist his mind stuff.
True.
So, and I think it's because he can focus his mind on just one moment instead of letting you see everything. Because when they walk down the hallway and they're looking through the little windows,
yeah,
that was an interesting take on that for me.
But it also shows how he is hyper focused on this one moment. And I mean, we've already joked that like Batman clearly is just as psychotic because he has never properly dealt with trauma, and his solution was to go blow some money in other countries, learning all these different martial arts, get a couple of like backroom degrees, and come back and punch people till he feels better. And since he never feels better because he's never actually dealt with the trauma, he just continues to punch people.
I did like that Harley referenced that though.
Yeah.
That was nice.
She's
as a psychiatrist.
I was about to say, remember, she's a doctor. She has her doctorate. She was working psychiatrist when she made the choice to go be psychotic herself.
Harley Quinn has surprised me at every turn. Not only I love Bane. I'm sorry. The comedic relief that Bane has in that show. Even Frank. And some of the other ancillary characters that they have in that show. And the fact that they just went off the rails. They were like, let's blow Gotham up. Let's do it.
Yeah.
Let's just, all of Gotham. Boom.
I think it's one of those things where it's like, this is the kind of show where like people love it and they don't even realize that the reason why you like this show is because a bunch of different people than the people you're used to hearing from on these characters is now writing them. And so
Comic Book Man actually having lines.
It was like the whole show, it's like we're so used to seeing it from like the square-jawed white man protagonist hero's perspective that it's like seeing it from Harley's perspective, is it making me be like, is she still a bad guy? Yeah. But also like the heroes are crazy too. Like
yeah.
Even just like when like the Bat family shows up. Like you see how like teenagers out here like beating people up, like
right. No, just watching the infighting between Batgirl and Dick in the one episode where they're actually in an escape room, ironically.
Right.
That was created by the Riddler, who was like, oh, fine. Take your photos and get out. You know what I'm saying? Like everything about these characters, it shows a little bit more of the complexity of these characters rather than dumbing them down to trying to take over Gotham every episode or every issue, going through the same little things. Because at some point you got to realize that like any one of these villains, if they were not successful in taking over Gotham, could have easily taken over any other city in any other town, anywhere else.
Right.
Why Gotham? Because Batman's there? Like you got something to prove? No. If it was really about, if it was really about like taking over and ruling something, they could go anywhere and rule, But some of these characters, it shows that there is something more to them. They are a little bit more complex. They are a little bit deeper. Even the little bit like, as much as I talk shit about the Joker, I like this take on the Joker in that it doesn't just focus on him, and he's got his own shit he's dealing with. You know what I'm saying? Like
I just met his new wife.
Right. You know what I'm saying? Like You've got they dip into a little bit of the White Knight arc, which is fantastic. They go to the part where Joker's cured. They go back to him, launching back into a psychosis. They've addressed so much, and it's all fresh. And the way that they've done it, Two-Face being, like, oh my God, Commissioner Gordon. You know what I'm saying? Like, just how stupid do you have to be? You're Commissioner Gordon.
I actually enjoyed Kite Man and the whole parental Ivy conflict.
Yeah.
I mean, just everything about this show works because, like Jeffrey said, it's not the same kind of story rehashed. It is this is a more, for lack of a better phrase, this is actually a more realistic version of these characters.
Well, it like rounds everything out, right? It's like you're not just getting this one perspective of Gotham, that because it's like obviously like it's gonna be like heavy-handed because that's what Bruce is. He's literally heavy-handed. And so it's like I think this is that thing where, when I've gone off the rails before about like the fact that I don't ever want to see Martha Kent's pearls rolling into like a subway grate ever again in my life, because it's just like it's been so overdone. This is the one that I think is really
Martha
like,
who? You don't want to see who?
Why would you say that name?
Martha Wayne? You don't see Martha Waynes?
Nah. But it's like, yeah, I think it's one of those things where it's like different people, different cultures, different, social groups latch on to some of these things for different reasons. And it feels like, as a person who for most of my life has actually like enjoyed Batman, it's like I feel like I'm just in the camp now where it's like I'm just gonna rail on them because all these people who put out Batman content care about is the Joker anyway. So it's like we're just gonna keep shoehorning the Joker, but it's like the Joker is like more popular than like Batman now. And it's like you guys have literally done in real life what the comic book always said was going to happen, which is Batman existing is just going to inspire people to like follow the Joker. Yeah. And I mean, it's literally like what people kind of do. And it's like, then we make movies about just the Joker. And it's like all these other things aren't important. We don't balance it out. And it's Joker, 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 Joker. And that's because a lot of the people who have access in Hollywood, when they think about Batman, they think about Batman and the Joker. And they think they grew up on these psychological movies and they think this is their opportunity to like make their psychological thriller. But guess what? You got to put it over some existing IP so we can make sure we get that money in there. I mean, you think about a show like Riverdale. The first season of Riverdale is actually a very, very good, like on its own Twin Peaks style, like murder mystery.
Yeah.
But CW, they're like, well, what do we make one of Archie? Like, can you? And they did a great job of like revamping that. And that first season was like really, really, really good. But
Archie, Batman, Betty, the whole nine.
Yeah, but with Batman, it's like now you have like women voices coming through on like what they experience when they read Batman comics and how these characters come across to them. You have minority voices. You just hearing it from like a different perspective. It makes me, it doesn't make me like hate Batman, but it's just like, yeah, like this is like really what Batman is. Like there are people who should be able to like see this side of Batman too, even if he's highly effective when you put him in a room full of people who need to get beat up. Yeah. But is he really doing like the job he thinks he's doing? Does he have all his stuff together? Let's talk about his taste in women. It's like
Harley called that out on him. Like, why are you out there beating people up instead of building homes for halfway homes and affordable housing and this, that, and the other? Like, I thought that was great.
I got to say, one of my favorite scenes, and this is how I think this might even be in season 1. Batman, season 1 into season 2, something. Batman gets captured. Scarecrow and Joker have Batman tied up, and they're going through doing the Joker bit.
That was season 1.
Okay, season 1. They're going through doing the Joker bit. He's monologuing and whatnot. Scarecrow, being impatient, runs over. Is like, let's take the mask off. The very first thing that happens, Joker's pissed off. He's like, I didn't want to take the mask off. Part of the fun was the mystery. And then he looks, he's like, Bruce Wayne? Batman is Bruce Wayne? Wait a minute.
You promised us flying cars.
Right. Like, you promised us electric cars that would fly in 2023. I put down a deposit. Where's the goddamn car, Bruce? I mean, just the fact that, like, that's a very realistic approach to something. You know what I'm saying? Like,
I mean, even like Lego Batman is like, it's like more willing to deal with like the problems within Bruce Wayne than like any of the movies are. Because like even in this one, all you get is the occasional Alfred comes in, is like, you should eat some breakfast. Like, I can't. Yeah. Crime doesn't let me eat breakfast.
Crime doesn't sleep, so I don't sleep.
The board will be here in the morning. Why were they coming here? It's like, because you wouldn't go there. It's like, oh my God, man. Like, don't even show me Alfred no more either. I know he there.
Just, you know what? I mean, honestly,
they're trying to make Alfred the whole thing. He got his own show. They're trying to make him super tough.
Have you actually watched any of that?
I don't want to.
Man,
admittedly,
I don't want to. Let's be real. I'm all for extending universes and giving side character stuff. But do I really want to watch a show about Batman's butler? A prequel about Batman's butler and who he was before he met Thomas Wayne? Which I'm gonna have to pass.
I get where you come from on that. I do. I understand that. I get it. However, I took myself out of the universe to watch it as just a separate show, not thinking of it as a prequel to the whole Batman thing. And it's a decent show.
But guess what?
He should have been just that.
Right.
You know he's never gonna die because you know he got to be Batman butler. He got to pick up Bruce Wayne in the crime alley when his mom and daddy get shot.
Well, that's my problem with prequels.
In a show where he's supposed to be in danger, it's like the danger only goes up to a certain level.
If they could have called it anything else and not made it who he was, it would be an awesome show.
Agreed.
And honestly, I did start watching it. I was like, this is a great show. I like it. It's cool. Then they showed Thomas Wayne the first time, and I'm just like, nope. It took me out of where I was trying to be because I didn't expect him to meet Thomas Wayne in the first episode.
Yeah. No, they have to get that out the way to remind you that he's going to be his butler one day.
Yeah.
Because you're not watching Pennyworth because you want to know about Pennyworth. You're watching Pennyworth because you want to know, how do we get to Batman? How do we get to Batman? So let's show all this cool stuff. And I mean, honestly, to me, it's something like there's a couple of times in comics and things like that where we've kind of like, they've kind of identified and pointed out and explored the idea that Alfred was basically like MI6. He was a secret spy. He was a badass back in the day. Cool. Now you trying to like give Pennyworth his own little spinoff show and hype up what he's doing and make it seem like he was fighting crime long before he became the butler. Well, if that's the case, you should have been fighting crime once this kid decided to put on this damn costume and been out there with him.
Should have been Robin. Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like Batman should have been Robin and Bruce should have been Robin and Pennyworth should have been damn Batman up until Bruce was old enough to take over, and then it would just be Batman for a while. And he remembered the great dynamic that it was. And I mean, we've got to rewrite the whole Batman mythos. So
now I want to throw this in, Sam. That's something I noticed with butlers lately. Butler, like Bel Air, they made Jeffrey into a badass all of a sudden. Now I've only seen a couple episodes because I don't actually have, you know what I mean. But even in that first episode, they made him hard.
Yeah, but it's also like they didn't do a Jeffrey prequel where it's like
not yet.
Jeffrey over
if Bel Air is popular enough.
But if they make a Jeffrey prequel, it's like, but he's never gonna die because he got to go to Bel Air.
But why? I
Go
agree.
home to Bel Air.
And that goes back to the prequel rule about certain characters that you just know how it's going to turn out.
Now, if you want to make a
what
show
is it without
where
having to
Jeffrey
make
quit,
butlers all hard? Butlers are butlers.
he's an
They
estate
didn't
manager.
want to be super spies. They wanted to take care of somebody. That's why they're a butler.
The
No,
times change, man.
oftentimes, no, hold on. There are situations where butler is the title given to the bodyguard because saying bodyguard is a very clear indication. But you definitely want to make sure that the person who's going to be in charge of your manor and overseeing the kids or the wife or whatever the case may be can also defend the house if necessary.
Yeah.
So it is not uncommon for butlers, especially some of these higher end upscale butlers, to be well
Because
qualified.
you ain't see him bringing no trays of food or cooking and doing none of that stuff. He was in the office. He was walking around telling people what to do. Like,
yeah, but I'm sorry, but in Fresh Prince, Jeffrey's job was to roast you. You got burned harder than you've ever been burned. Yes. And Bel Air has a harder take. I'll give it that. And I enjoy it.
Roast you on Bel Air too. It's for real.
Take you out back and roast you.
So we've covered Harley Quinn, we've covered House of Dragons, we've covered Rings of Power. Is there any sci-fi news out there?
Oh yeah, we got to cover
on your Star Trek journey.
Star Trek journey is I won't say it's on pause, but there's a lot of
there's been a lot of new stuff out.
I was about to say a lot of new shit came out. And I've just
it's a good show for like lulls in content.
And like honestly, that will be, let's see, so it's Wednesday today. That would have been good for like yesterday when I didn't have anything to watch. I think what was the last one I watched? It was actually a couple days ago. I did actually turn something on because I was waiting in between. I want to say it was last week now that I think about it. I'd watched everything I needed to watch on Thursday and didn't have anything to watch Friday night and had to work, did not have to work Saturday. So while I was just like hanging out, I was like, oh yeah, let me throw in an episode of Star Trek. I can knock that out.
Were you working Monday?
No, I was occupied. Like this is the last weekend I'm going to have off in September. So I was enjoying my weekend. I did see your message, if that's what you're referencing. I did see your message. I saw your message Monday night, actually. I'll admit, I did not touch my phone on Monday. Like I was off, the wife was off. I did not touch my phone.
I got to give you a golf clap on that one.
Yeah, it sat on my nightstand the whole day.
Because you never are away from your phone. So good for you.
Yep. I went out with the wife Saturday. We did some shopping. I thought we were close to being done with the room. We're not. We still have more to go. The bathroom is done. The bathroom's completely finished. So done there. But
I'm still waiting on that Instagram story.
I'm waiting to put it together when I could do like the whole room. But I do have all the pictures. I could do the bathroom and get that out the way, and then we'll do the bedroom once we finish the bedroom. So I'll probably put that together next day or so. But you know what we did do this weekend? We watched She-Hulk. And
it just gets better. I'm sorry. I know we got Tony slamming it, and I'm all for it. And I'm all for a conversation about it.
I can't remember the last time I heard Tony like some shit. So
I am loving this show.
I think Tony rips on stuff just because. Yeah,
he does it for the reaction.
Yeah.
He just thinks it's funny to like.
Did you see what Lisa posted with the TikTok filter where it turns them into She-Hulk?
Yeah.
I tried to pull that up. I have not finished it.
I make a very scary looking She-Hulk.
I found one.
Not have a beard.
I bet $5 that's about the only thing Tony will get out of this show. I literally said that in the comments.
You know what? I sent him one, and I'm waiting to.
Because except for memes slamming the show that he keeps posting, which are funny.
He's just gonna post. He's just gonna always just post memes. Like that's.
Hey, I get it. I do a lot of that. So funny is funny.
His memes are always gonna be the like edge lord, like, ugh, you guys think this is cool? Oh, it's so terrible. It's like, damn man, what do you like? And then it's always some like weird shit.
He's a horror specialist to me. Like,
yeah,
if you want to talk about Freddy or Jason or Michael or It or anything of that nature, Saw, Hills Have Eyes, anything like that, he's down.
He don't want to sit down and like listen to people like talk about
this. Isn't his cup of tea, which I get. So I'm not a horror fan.
The one that I saw, and it, you know what, horror is not really my thing either. But if you could just have a conversation with him about a movie, he watches a lot of movies. He knows a lot about movies, a lot about film. He is typically looking for that reaction from you, and he is trying to trigger you. That's where he finds his humor.
Yep.
Yeah.
But if you can get him to have like genuine conversation about some movies, the shit's entertaining as hell because he really does know a lot. And the same thing with like,
he has a lot of knowledge.
No, truthfully, the same thing with like, even with comics and stuff like that, because that was one of the ways that Tony and I met, was we would always go back and forth with arguments and whatnot, because somebody would post something and he would have one take, I'd have another take. And he was one of the few people who could, I mean, there's a lot of people out there, let me not say it like that, but he was one of the few people that I can engage with that could always keep it about the argument.
Be lost,
right? He could always keep it about the argument. Like whatever point we were making, it would stay there. He never took shit personal. He never tried to attack or you're stupid for this, stupid for that. He would always be like, well, why you say that? But why you say that? Did you know about this? What about that? You know what I'm saying? And like it was good, valid conversation. Pretty much the same reason I even fuck with you, Jeffrey, because it's never been like, oh, you're stupid for thinking that. You're like, make it make sense. And so those kind of conversations,
that as well, sir.
Right, like that is the basis of Grown A Geeks. And if you're interested in having a conversation like that, be sure to like, subscribe, and follow. Click the QR code in the corner and be a part of these types of talks all the time.
I always feel, when you get like that, I always feel like I'm buying a used car.
Right, because that's
I love it though. I love it.
Gotta have the honest pitch, man. I want the brand to grow. I want people to continue to join and be a part of this and be in these discussions and bring up these points. We got DJ Fat Snacks who hangs out with us just about every week, man. He always like he be on it, ready to correct and ready to fill in those blanks. Like he is an honorary guest host. Like he can always tell me what we need to know when we need to know it. But yeah, we got a chance to watch this last episode of She-Hulk, and I have to say, like, I think the last thing that I've read that somebody seemed to have like complaint about was they still complained about the CGI. I just thought it was funny as hell personally.
Yeah, some of the CGI, I'm gonna be real. Some of the CGI is a little like
it's spotty.
Little Nintendo 64 sometimes.
It's spotty. But
I'm sorry, as far as the CGI, my personal opinion, and I know a lot of people are not going to agree with this, but they could have found a person like they did way back in the day with Lou Ferrigno. They could have found a female bodybuilder that was tall.
You know what?
She-Hulk.
They definitely there's no doubt that would have been an option. And there are a number of females that could have done that.
Mm-hmm.
There still would be a requirement for a certain amount of CGI just because of
she's like 8 feet tall, right?
Right. She's 7. No, she's
like 7 something.
She's like 7 feet tall. And so they would still have to have her like kind of tower over people and things like that. So they would run into the same problem. And I think the biggest thing is like, this is one of those times where they're conserving a bit of the budget for the show as a whole, given that they have, and I think that's why we get as much Jennifer Walters as we get and not always She-Hulk all the time, just to, save a few dollars here and there.
I am surprised that they've showed Jennifer Walters. Like, she came in to the trial with Abomination as herself, kind of like tried to sneak in there. She does a lot of the meetings by herself. I would have definitely thought, like we talked about the one time, where as she gets further on, like she becomes more She-Hulk because that's what people want.
Well, they wouldn't let her go into the trial with her powers. Remember, she went the first time and they were like, no powers. And so she had to be Jennifer Walters in the trial.
I liked how Wong dipped out.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So look,
One
well,
was straight
you
up
know,
like,
Mr.
"Oh, you want to talk about charges? I gotta go."
Yep.
So
Master of the Mystic Arts doesn't answer
But-
to your laws.
I will say, 3 episodes in, I don't even care about the CGI anymore because I'm watching it for the comedy.
Yeah,
I'm watching it for the situations. The fact that the lawyer dude thought that he was actually dating Megan Thee Stallion, and she had to come on and testify that yes, he is conceited enough and narcissistic enough, and yes, he would believe he actually did it.
I mean,
And
that was a
actually
hell of a defense, though.
saved his
Right.
ass with it. Right.
That was a hell of a defense.
That was great. So
And I do like how they've really tried to normalize. Like, this is a post in-game world, and they are showing you that this is a post in-game world, that people have powers, and this is normal. Oh, she's Asgardian. She's an Asgardian shapeshifter. That's a thing. That shouldn't shock you. You know that aliens have come through the sky. You know that people turn into big green hulks. None of this shit should shock you. And it's just, to me, it's fascinating to think of a world that people live in where this is
the normal. I'm still waiting for Daredevil, though. Not gonna lie.
Oh yeah.
Still,
Yeah, I mean, like,
I'm waiting for him to come on screen. Like,
knowing that he's coming, I think it's going to be.
And she even fourth wall broke that and addressed it. About
Yeah,
like,
she's
this
like, I
isn't
know.
one of those shows that has cameo. All right, well, except for, but it's my
Okay,
show
well-
still.
But don't forget who the show's really about.
Right.
And it's fantastic. And I think that her fourth wall breaks are timely and they fit. And it is her being a narrator of the story. I keep forgetting that image is over there. Let me come this way. It is her being the narrator of this story, and it is played up for laughs, and it is a comedy, and it's enjoyable, and it's fun, and it's entertaining, and it's not a kind of show that, you know. I saw somebody write something about the Wrecking Crew, and they were like, "Oh, the Wrecking Crew deserves more respect." From who? From who?
It was
Sacrilege.
I mean, I saw his
I'm pretty
post.
sure
But that's
it was,
not the
or
only.
he at least dropped some comments on it.
He did make some comments about, but I mean, his comments were kind of valid because he was talking about, like, okay, I get a magical crowbar, I get magical gloves, I get like what the hell is a magical hard hat? What could you do with that? Okay, that's valid, that's funny, I can laugh at that. But I mean, you have people who are like really acting like they've been out here just collecting all the Wrecking Crew comics. And you get those kind of fanboys that come out of the woodworks when they do something just so that they have something to nitpick and gatekeep on. You know, it's like, oh, that's not the Wrecking Crew. That's not how they're supposed to be. Bruh, the Wrecking Crew are like the wrestlers who are paid just to show up so the person they're trying to improve has matches.
Yeah.
You're never gonna be champion. You're not in the running for that.
Anytime they show the Wrecking Crew on a cartoon, it's like the cold open and Spider-Man or somebody already fighting them. It ain't no episodes where it's like the Wrecking Crew gets all together. They devise this plan. Like, we don't even be knowing what the Wrecking Crew is running from when we see them on cartoons. This is like, all right, they're about to go to jail.
Their job is to lose. No.
You're the Washington of comic book characters.
Is to lose. That's why they exist. They're foot soldiers at best. It just happens that a few of them are strong and have powers, and there you go. But I mean, it's somebody like a Taskmaster. You know what I'm saying? You have a number of these characters who they don't hold individual. Like, there's no Wrecking Crew issue 1. You know what I'm saying? There may have been like a special run here or there for some things, and there's a couple of characters in there that are you know, legit characters. Let me not throw it down like that, because hell, one guy is a damn doctor, but he's part of the Wrecking Crew. You know what I'm saying? Of course, you go and you check out his run with Tahiti Coates in Black Panther. He ends up going out to Wakanda as a scientist. He was part of the Wrecking Crew, but you know, because he's part of the Wrecking Crew, nobody takes his ass serious because he's part of the Wrecking Crew. So who cares? Who cares what the wrecking crew does? They're jobbers.
They just want to complain. People just want to complain because it's not like we haven't had like 10 years of Captain America and Iron Man and Thor and Spider-Man and another Spider-Man and another Spider-Man and 5 Batmans and how many Supermans and Green Lantern and Wonder Woman, and it's just like.
But we had a Wonder Woman
and
Captain Marvel. You got
Black
one,
Widow,
and you got one. So what are you complaining about? But we got to have this super woke show with a female lead. Ooh.
I'm just like, bruh, like the Pakistani Americans can't have one without y'all getting mad.
Right.
You can't just not watch it if you don't want to watch it.
I actually enjoyed the hell out of it.
They can ignore the comic books, but when important stuff start happening in the shows, and then that stuff starts back getting connected to the movies, that's what they really mad about, because now you forcing me to watch the woke stuff so I know what's going on in the main thing, and that's what people don't like.
Ooh, that's our clip there. Damn,
that's a good, great actual clip.
Oh, that's our clip. What's the time? 150? Hell yeah, that's
a great clip, because I as a fan person who has a little bit more of an open mind, I enjoy all of it. I enjoy the connectivity, I enjoy all that, but I have seen several arguments online about you're forcing me to watch this person or that person to understand so that I don't miss anything, and I just don't agree with that. Like, it should be about the story and the characters and that kind of stuff. It shouldn't be about the actor or the continuity. Yes, I'm sorry. I'm searching for the word.
It's like everybody is not a passenger in the story. It's like this is an entire universe. It's got an entire universe of people, and it's one that's supposed to be loosely based on our reality. So if it's loosely based on our reality, you think like if people got powers, only the white people getting powers?
Yeah.
Now I do agree.
All the stories they show aren't for you.
Now I will say, I do agree that they might only let the white people who got powers be superheroes.
Yeah,
but it would be more people with powers.
It would definitely be. And honestly, that was something that kind of came to mind, because I was thinking about with Jennifer Walters heading up the superhero division at this law firm. They take on the client Abomination, and they have She-Hulk as the lawyer.
Even though she can't even go into the prison.
Say what?
Even though she can't even go into the prison.
As
right.
She-Hulk.
She can't go in the prison as She-Hulk because the powers, whatnot. But what's interesting is, of course, it makes me think, and it's kind of like, it's one of those things where they don't really address it directly, but you can infer it, and we know that it's coming, because we know that Daredevil's going to be there. And when you just think about the number of heroes that we technically have in and around the New York area at this time, just taking everybody who's been a part of the Avengers run, everybody that's been a part of the MCU, for the most part, all of them. Now, we don't know where Barton's farm was, but all of them are here in the New York area. And so it kind of makes you wonder, like, if we know that Daredevil's now been canonized in the MCU, that also makes everywhere Daredevil was canonized in the MCU. So Luke Cage exists. Jessica Jones exists. The Punisher exists. And
this is the same Daredevil and not just a doppelganger from another universe.
A variant, right. We got to make sure it's not a variant.
And also, what's his name? Iron Fist.
No, we don't talk about Iron Fist.
Yeah, we don't really talk about Iron Fist. It's kind of like D&D 4th edition. We just don't talk about Iron Fist. So.
He didn't come back in the blip.
Wow.
You
know what, though? I mean, I didn't wish that on him, but at the same time,
he was one of the people that
I'm not gonna miss it.
He was like on his yacht, and then when he came back, the boat wasn't there, so he just like landed in the ocean, and it just.
I mean, you know what? That does raise a question for the people who blipped when they were in midair, when they was on a plane. But we're not gonna get into the morbid aspect of it.
Oh, why
But
not?
but no, I mean, like seriously, if let's say, and Jeff, Jeffrey, you do bring up a valid point. If it's not a doppelganger, if this is the canonical version of Daredevil, so Netflix's Marvel series, if that Daredevil is the same Daredevil, and so far we've only seen a visual of him to know that he's the same person. We don't know that it's the same one. It's just the same body. And so, Multiverse of Madness shows us that the same person can exist in multiple universes and that universe be completely different. And even though it looks like the same person, there's a different. And that doesn't necessarily make them a Nexus being where they are the same person each time, because I've never heard anything about Doctor Strange being a Nexus being, and yet every version of Doctor Strange was in fact Doctor Strange. Anyway, I digress. The point being, if they're in and around the New York area and they're creating a superhero division, we know that everybody from the MCU is in and around that area. We know that Daredevil is in and around that area. In my head, at least, that canonizes Luke Cage, Jessica Jones, the Punisher, all of those heroes. Of course, we know that there are aspects of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. There's aspects of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that, correct me if I'm wrong, that's canon as well.
I need LMDs and Ghost Rider. I'm not going to lie.
And so...
I don't know. Is Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. canon? I mean, I guess it is, technically.
I mean, they had Sif from Asgard visit on the show.
Well, here's the thing, though. There's a lot of time travel stuff that happened in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. So,
yeah, but
and the Inhumans series failed, so they kind of got rid of the Inhumans.
Nick Fury are both in Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D.
No, I know. So when it first starts out, it definitely is canonical, but it does have like this part where like they go to the future and like Quake has like basically broken the whole planet in half. Obviously, like that hasn't happened in ours. So they're like in the future, and it's like that's where they start showing all the like the Kree. There's a lot of stuff about the Kree like during that season when they're like in the future trying to figure out how to get back. And then there's like a whole bunch of other stuff with like LMDs, and then they're getting plugged into artificial intelligence and AI simulators and stuff. So I think that there's part of it that's canon for sure, but there's part where I would ask about it.
Okay.
And the MCU can call multiverse on that and just call it a day now.
That's what I'm saying.
They've opened that can of worms to where they can just be like, oh, that was in universe 642 or whatever.
Right.
So,
and see, my question being though is like,
saying they fixed it. I'll just say this: I know that they fixed it, but there's like also a bunch of other stuff that happened, like invasions and planets and entire worldwide systems getting shut down, and we ain't hear nothing about Captain America or Thor or nothing coming to help nobody do nothing. And we didn't hear about any of that stuff in the movies. That's why I'm just saying some of that later stuff after the time travel, I'm not sure what they came back to, whether it's like a variant or I guess an alternate dimension or whatever it would be.
Apparently there's a whole lot more of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. that I need to watch. I thought I watched it all, but apparently not.
Oh no, the whole Ghost Rider arc is amazing. LMDs is good. Like there's
LMDs is crazy.
Yeah.
If you
I
like,
remember seeing Ghost Rider. But
yeah, but see, all right, he like shows up in what? Jeffrey, help me on this because it's been a while. He shows up in like season 4. Then they go on like the LMD arc, and then he comes back in like season 6 or something. He comes back later.
Come back. There's like this arc with like Dove Cameron where she's like they turned her into like this like weapon, and so they're trying to like that's another thing where there's like another time travel thing because I don't know. I don't even remember. But hold on, what did you say? Who come? Ghost Rider.
That was season 4.
Yeah,
And then,
so
but I could have swore that he came back in like
I've
season
apparently
6 or
missed
7.
a whole lot of that then.
No, that he did come back because he came back when they were trying to do. Did he come back when they were trying? It was something with like they were trying to build something.
It's been a minute since I've seen it because Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was one of those that I watched, took a break from, and then came back to.
That was also season 4, episode 21.
Okay.
See, and Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. was one of those 22, 23 episode seasons too. It wasn't 8 or 10 or
because that was network television, so it was standard
22,
seasons,
21. So,
and let's see,
Season 5 Monolith, where they go
see,
to.
you guys have a second screen. I'll just let you look this up because otherwise I got to pull out my phone.
No, it's cool. And
I turned the beast on back here, but it's kind of noisy.
Gotcha. So the point of that, while everybody's searching and whatnot, the point of that is being like, how many superheroes, villain or hero, exist in the New York area that they're willing to create an entire division. Now, granted, it was probably, he even said as much that it was for publicity more than anything. Yeah. But there's still going to be enough people to warrant an entire division. And it's a little bit different when we get, when you move forward and you get to like mutants in the MCU.
That's what I was just going to say, because like
there's
if they take a break between season 1 and season 2 of She-Hulk and introduce mutants in a movie, and then they have mutants defended in She-Hulk season 2 or 3, that opens up a whole another can of worms.
Right.
So
and given the character interactions, and I think it would be helpful to maybe put a little bit of time between season 1, season 2, get the mutants into the MCU, introduce them that way. When you come around to the next season, or at least by season 3, if it gets 3 seasons, a little bit of static and crackling on somebody. When you get around to that next season, having some of those additional characters that you can interact with. South Down issue. Dave, check your mic. Just maybe like unplug your mic, plug it back in.
Is there still an issue?
Nope, it went away immediately. Thanks. It's like, oh, whatever you did, that fixed it. But having somebody like since we kind of see, if they still do it, based on the trailers and whatnot, we see that Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, is going to become more comfortable in her green skin. And if they, of course, everybody's real quick to try to, point out and pick on the character of She-Hulk being promiscuous and showing all the different people she slept with. I mean, you include Tony Stark, but if you show everybody that Tony Stark slept with, everybody Wolverine slept with, everybody Daredevil,
their names.
You know what I'm saying? Everybody Deadpool slept with. You know what I'm saying? It's like, of course, double standard.
Batman slept with.
You know what I'm saying? Like, because it's just criminals. I ain't heard nobody good come for him.
He had a good woman in his life since his mama got shot in that alley.
Wow.
Which,
true,
if
but
you want,
that's
hilarious.
If you want, we can show you on repeat, apparently. You know what I'm saying? But like having some of those characters, having a character like Mystique come in, and this is kind of funny full circle moment where we're back to talking about Mystique. But having a character like Mystique come in, and with her being a shapeshifter, there's definitely, if you think about that for just a moment, use your best part of your imagination. Mystique is a shapeshifter. She can look like anybody. So I'm sure her list pretty damn long, because even what they tell you is long as hell. And so having a character like that show up and come on and, empower herself a little bit more, I think would be helpful. And I think a good interaction with some of the mutants is fantastic. And having She-Hulk interact with some of these other people, because most people who are watching this show aren't super familiar with She-Hulk. It's not like everybody grew up reading She-Hulk comics. I did not. I saw them. I knew that she existed. I knew she was a person. I can't say that they're doing anything wrong. from what I did read, and of course, I made it a point to go and get caught up and read some She-Hulk comics ahead of time so that I won't be completely lost. I don't know if they got everything right about this, that, and the other. I do know little things like that is not how she became She-Hulk. But it makes more sense, and it gets us to, it gets us from point A to point B a lot faster in a way that actually makes sense. Since the MCU is already something of an interpretation of Marvel Comics, they have the freedom and a little leeway to do what they want. I love the show. I've been enjoying the hell out of it. And thank you for the Meg Thee Stallion cameo. It was great. I enjoyed every bit of that.
Mm-hmm. So. I do like that the series has post-credit scenes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Every episode.
It makes it feel much more MCU movie vibe than.
Though
it is better connected in that regard.
Yes. Though I think that while it was hilarious, this week's or last week's post-credit scene was a little over the top.
That's strictly for the actress, though. She loves Megan Thee Stallion. That her line of "I will kill for you" is strictly from her. She is a huge fan.
Okay.
So and this is a meta thing for me, like to throw Megan Thee Stallion in to the episode because the actress likes her is very meta to me. Like because
also, Megan Thee Stallion is also a very, very big geek.
Yeah,
like, I was so damn happy to.
She's like a crazy anime fan. Like,
oh yeah,
I saw her dressed like Sailor Moon at some festival. So
in Japan,
so those things.
I'm gonna go back and watch Sailor Moon. I tell you what.
So to me,
Sam, I appreciate that link because that showed a much better all-around picture of her.
Right. Got to see the stage from all angles. You can't just be on one side. You got to be on all sides.
But I think too, it's just it taps into the fact that there's a new crop of geeks out there who are loud and proud about the fact that okay, yeah, we like popular music and we might do certain things, but that doesn't mean that we still don't like our geek stuff. And geeks can go to the club and have a good time. It's not Saved by the Bell. You don't have to be Screech Powers to be
oh yeah, geek. I mean that's the beauty of it. You know what I'm saying? Like, if nothing else, I will say the number one thing, because this is just an interesting concept. Imagine our world today without the MCU. There is geekdom would not have hit pop culture the way that it did. And I don't think any number of Batman movies would have done it. The DCEU damn sure wasn't going to do it. I think that is the number one thing to be celebrated about the MCU, because it was a gateway for a lot of people. Some people stopped there. They saw the MCU, they liked the movies, and they just watched it because they're movie buffs. They could give a rat's ass about picking up any comic books. They just focus on the movies because it's an easy medium, a quick visual to be entertained by, and it makes for great storytelling. And when you go through a 25 movie catalog, like, we're damn near watching a TV show. That's season upon season right there. You know what I'm saying? And given those people who they get so into, I know people that quote Parks and Recs daily. They quote The Office on a regular. You know what I'm saying? I was quoting Psych for a long time. Like, you know what I'm saying?
Love me some Psych.
And it's like these things become part of pop culture. It becomes normalized. And then
Sam,
you had other
ask
things.
Real quick, while I can, on Psych, did you ever go back and rewatch for the Hidden Pineapples?
Yes.
Literally,
I did.
Once I found out about them.
I was telling somebody just the other day about that who was like, I forget, we were actually talking about the character Gus, and something came up, and I was like, oh yeah, I used to love him on Psych. Come on, son. And we had a nice little chuckle about it. And she was like, you know what? I really enjoyed watching Psych. She was like, I kind of fell off. And I was like, oh no, you have to go back. Watch every episode. It's fantastic. It's great. And there was like 2 movies. They were okay. They weren't as good as the show, but it was like, and then I did mention, I was like, you know what? Oh, and just so you know, start doing it now. It makes for a better viewing experience. But every episode has a pineapple in it.
In the background, in a window, in a door, somewhere.
And it was kind of, and again, it's just one of those meta things that's like, because the show is about a hyper attentive individual who notices everything. He can count the number of hats in a room that he walks in and do it blindfolded. You know what I'm saying? Like all of that type of stuff. And so being able to spot the pineapple every episode, it changes the way you watch the show. And I think that's a good thing. So it got to the point where I realized that, like, yeah, they weren't giving us all the answers in the episode. Some of this shit that Sean was pulling out was, they show us that. It's not like we could have figured it out. That was definitely for him to show out. But that's still one of my favorite shows. But, you know, you have shows like Big Bang Theory. 12 seasons of that kind of helped normalize pop culture. Or not normalize pop culture, but it normalized geek culture and made it a part of pop culture. But I will say that I have a unique relationship with that show because, like, the first 2 seasons of that show, like, nobody thought the show was, like, I was working at GameStop at the time. I was a manager at GameStop. And when they first announced that show, I was like, all in, both feet. I was like, this is going to be the greatest thing because I'll get to see a TV show that represents people like me, a geek. Yeah, no, not a single black geek on the show. Raj was the closest thing I had, and I'm nothing like Raj, so I couldn't relate. But the content and the topics and whatnot were still relevant. You know, here we had these guys, they were playing World of Warcraft, and they were talking about Dungeons and Dragons. They were talking about Superman and Batman, and they had these comic books and
3-dimensional chess.
Right, they were doing three-dimensional chess. They were talking about Star Trek. They were talking about the things, having the same kind of conversations that I was having. So there were certain aspects of it where I could still see myself in these characters, and they were very true to that in season 1, most of season 2. By season 3, they realized that they had a pretty decent show, and they started relying on things that the geekdom definitely took a back seat to these characters in favor of, let's have them date. Let's show their relationship problems. Let's show them be awkward in these social situations and shit like that.
And I mean, that's like, I read a thing. Bernadette, Amy, and I think
Maya
Penny as well were not supposed to become main characters.
Penny was the only person who was originally supposed to be a main character. She was actually recast from not the pilot episode, but from the test screening. She was recast, and they brought in
Haley.
Cuoco.
Yeah, I was like, I'm gonna try to say this. We're not gonna try to say this. They brought in, you know what? They brought in the voice of Harley Quinn. Damn it, that's
there you go.
They brought her in, and when she landed the role of Penny, she had pretty good comedic timing, and she was a funny character. And since she was such a major difference from the characters of Leonard and Sheldon, it was perfect, fish out of water kind of situation there. It gave them opportunities to show some of their social awkwardness. Leonard Hofstadter is perhaps one of the best characters in season 1 and 2. By the time you get to the last seasons, he's like the coolest fucking guy on the show, and it's like, that growth is it's not realistic.
It was an amazing series finale for me with how Sheldon grew, though.
Oh yeah.
As far as series finales goes, it's one of my favorite. I finally finished watching it about 6 months ago, and I
still have a problem. No, I still have a problem with the way they ended with Raj, because that's some bullshit. It was just like, everybody else got a happy ending, and Raj is just like going to be okay. That's so jacked.
Yeah.
But I like the development of Wolowitz and stuff like. You know what? I actually had a point with this, and y'all messing with my ADD right now.
I can guarantee you, I am not the one who brought up Big Bang Theory.
And I believe that. I know you didn't. The point I was making was the normalization of geek culture and the benefit of it. You have people like Meg Thee Stallion, as you pointed out, that are, you know, they're very much geeks, and it's okay now. You know what I'm saying? Like, I will personally say that I was fortunate in the little town that I grew up in that I never got directly bullied for being a geek. I will also say that I did a pretty damn good job of hiding that shit from most people.
You were also a sports guy.
I was a sports guy. I was
fortunate enough to have a large group of friends. Kenneth, Kenny, Tracy, Brad, Adam, you, Mick, Doug, like we were all geeks.
Right.
So to be able to travel in a pack brought
the
its
funny
own protectiveness.
The funny part is, like, and this is an example of what Dave is even pointing out. So Tracy and I went to school together, and like, because you were at Heritage, right?
No, I went to Salem.
Okay, you were at Salem.
You were at Salem. I was at Heritage.
Tracy was at Rockdale.
I was at Rockdale.
Kenneth and Brad were at Heritage. So yeah, it was one of those. We met for D&D after a certain point in our life.
Right. So at Rockdale, Tracy and I, like, we had lunch together and we hung out. But I had sections of friends. I hung out with these friends at this time, those friends at that time, these friends at this time. And there was only a handful of my friends who knew all versions of Sam. Everybody got their version. Everybody got their version of Sam, because that was how I found the balance. And that is why, like right now today, if I see a geeky ass shirt, that if I wanted to go and buy a pair of Chuck Taylors that had Batman logos all over the bitches, I would wear them, and I would wear them proudly. And the funny thing is, like, one, as an adult, nobody would say shit because I'm an adult and I can do what I want with my own money. But I remember being proud as hell at Conyers Middle School. I was in middle school. Now, mind you, this was late 80s, early 90s. I was at Conyers Middle School. I had a pair of Converse All-Stars. They were all black, and they had the little yellow Batman symbols all over them. I wore those to school one time. Never again. Never again. It was the equivalent of a "what are those" moment for me in middle school. Traumatizing. So we didn't do that anymore. And I made it a point to, like, kind of keep that under wraps and keep it a secret and, not really let into it. But as I got older and stopped giving a shit, that's the type of stuff I like. I absolutely like all of that. Yes, I'm an adult. I play video games. I love them. You know what I'm saying? And to this day, right now, like, I watch movies, I read comics, I play video games, I work a full-time job. I've been married like 20 plus fucking years. You can be successful as a geek, and it's great. And now that it's part of mainstream life, you got people coming out of the woodworks as geeks, and it's fantastic.
That's why, like, at school, I tutored the smart kids. I hung out with, I was in football, I was in wrestling, that kind of thing. At school. Outside of school, the only people that ever came over to my house were you, Tracy, Kenneth, like that inner sanctum thing, like you're talking about, where only, we got together for D&D and riffs and video games and that kind of stuff. But outside of school, I only hung out with a certain circle.
Hey, Jeff.
So
I know you was talking about me the other day. That's my newest one.
Oh, what'd you get? Yin Yang?
Yeah. I have that Yin Yang, and of course
I'm getting Superman here, and I'm getting some D&D stuff here in March, coming March.
What the hell, Sam?
Bro, look, I already told you. No,
he got Sam finally went and got some ink, and now he's addicted. Okay, that's what it is.
Yeah, well, no, he's concerned because he's thinking, no, I have this space right here.
Okay.
That is there. That will be there.
Okay. We still got to get together and do that.
Wait, no,
I'm making a trip to Pennsylvania to get a Superman tattoo here and some D&D stuff here. It's my friend moved up there. I promised her that she's an award-winning tattoo artist. I told her, all right, cool. You're the only one that's going to put needle to my skin. So we're going to go to me and my friend up here are going to go to Pennsylvania. She's going to get her sleeve finished. I'm going to get ink here and here. And then we're going to stop by New York on the way home.
So what's your D&D one going to be?
It's going to be a book with some swords and flames around it coming down into a dice bracelet that says, beware the smiling DM.
Okay.
So
that's
something
right
along those lines. I haven't finalized that one. The Superman one is going to be a Superman shield being ripped out of my skin. It's going to be right here.
Oof.
One of my friends said to just get the whole chip. No, one of my friends tonight was like, just get the whole thing. I was like, no, there's no way. I'm not doing I'll do the left bicep, right bicep kind of thing. I can't go full chest.
Yeah.
So
I have a lion here. My Superman is here. I now have my Ankh here and my Yin Yang here. There's some other stuff that
the only one I've got is a wolf that I got when I was 18 for graduation.
Cool.
And I got the girl to touch it up to where it actually looks like a wolf now, not just a blob. So, because I mean,
I got it when
I got it when I was 18.
Like 8,
so
9.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
8. Okay. Yeah. See, I got it. Called it right. 8.
But even now, like I'll be at my job and some female or male will come in and they'll have like a little Skyrim dragon symbol, and I'll be like, "That's cool,
Right.
That's cool."
See, and you know the funny thing is, as much as I love my geekdom, I don't know that I can personally commit to that kind of fandom. Like there is actually there is an emotional attachment to the character of Superman. You know what I'm saying? It goes back like literally to my childhood as a little kid with my dad, first movie, comics as a kid. It goes on from there. My initials are SM. Like there's a lot attached to it. So I'm good with that one. Having my Superman right there, I'm good with that. But there's little things like I don't know that I would get a Captain America shield. You know what I'm saying?
Hell no.
I don't care if it is the updated Sam Wilson one. I can't go there with it.
I'll wear a shirt, but I ain't getting a tattoo.
Right. I'll buy like 10 shirts. I got a Captain America shield hanging on the wall right here, but I don't know. We ain't going there with it.
I got a funny story for you, Sam. Yeah, I don't know if you hold on, let me see how this looks like a wedding ring.
Yeah.
It's got a little Superman symbol on it. I actually had to wear this on this finger when I moved up here, because I wasn't ready to commit to nothing. And the first 2 weeks I was here, I was fresh meat.
Yeah.
So I had a couple of phone numbers, and I was just like, you know what? Let me slide this one over from this hand to this hand.
He's new in town.
Exactly. And then I had a friend buy that one for me that I wear on my pinky because that's all it fits on.
Okay.
So, but no matter what kind of shirt I've got on, I'm always repping Superman. Always have, always will. And that's why I think it's fine to get it here.
So I don't know if you can see these. So here's one of my bands, and I think that is the corresponding matching bracelet to the ring you have.
Yeah.
But I have that ring also. And I have probably 1, 2, 3 additional Superman rings. You know what? I got to do a TikTok one day of just all my Superman shit.
You blew me away when I came and visited for Labor Day. I thought I was a Superman fan, and then I walked in your house and I looked around the Superman room, as I call it.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I just need to shut up. Like,
you know what? But honestly, here's the funny part.
This year?
Yeah, when we played D&D together, David.
You were here. You were here that day.
We played D&D. We got super drunk. My brother was there. Parker was there. You were there.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, he said Labor Day. Well, you said when you came Labor Day. So he was just like,
last year. My bad.
Right. He was just like, wait, you were there and I wasn't there? He was about to get really offended.
No, of course. I'm sorry, but if I ever come to Atlanta, we're at least having dinner together.
Oh, no doubt.
We'll schedule it. We'll
I've come down there to see a girl once or twice, but you know.
Oh, hey.
Hey, exactly.
Yeah, that's that. Yeah, yeah.
I still text Sam though. Was like, hey, can we get together? Blah blah blah. And he's like, oh, I gotta work. Blah blah. I was like, all right, cool. I'll just spend
It's like
time
keep
with
me
her.
posted. Let me know because my schedule is very limited.
So
But yeah, I could fit it in 3 minutes. I think I would start with doing one of those transition videos where I just swap out my shirts or just swap out my hats. I have, let's see, from right here I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. I have 9 different Superman hats.
and see, I've got one, but I'm not really a hat guy. I've got David's hat, a Superman hat, and a hat that my friend makes. That's it.
Yeah.
That's the only hats I own. Now, if you
I'm-
want to talk t-shirts and hoodies, that's a whole nother story.
See, Jeffrey, we got to figure out what we can get you from South Down Leatherworks, man.
So I'm already
You're
I'm
the
still
only
thinking about
one
that
ain't got
tricorn,
none.
bro. Still, yep, got one hanging in the car. Got one hanging in the car. I have a Van Gogh one and a Superman one, and I wear the Van Gogh one with my Van Gogh shirt, and I wear the Superman one with anything else.
This was tonight's mug. I mean, you
Yep.
know what? It's one of those things where it's like, here's the funny thing about that. Because I am a Superman fan, that is apparently like the only thing some people know about me.
It's because Superman fans make it so sometimes it's the only thing you know about them.
So Jeffrey,
No,
let me
no.
ask you.
That
'cause
is
I know
Batman
David.
fans.
David's got his leather, and we talk.
Wait.
What is your number one fandom? I've been curious.
Me
Yeah, Iron Man, Spider-Man.
Oh.
What?
from X-Men.
Who?
I have a Gambit tattoo.
Gambit.
Yeah,
Gambit's loose.
that's
I was
my guy.
actually. I'm not gonna say I wanted Channing Tatum as Gambit, but I was
I
mad
do.
when they canceled the Gambit movie.
I'm not. Do it right. Earn it. Don't just be trying to come in on the side like, oh yeah, we gonna make just like random movies on the side with X-Men characters. Like, come on, bro. Like, we haven't seen Channing Tatum play Gambit in no movie at all, and you want everybody? We supposed to put the fate of this character again in something that's unproven. What's that kid name?
So what about the guy from X-Men Origins?
Yeah, Taylor or something. He the one that was in John Carter, or was it John Carter of Earth?
Just
Like,
John Carter.
Yeah, how you just keep getting chances to mess up multi-million, hundreds of $1 million franchises?
I mean, X-Men Origins did a couple characters dirty. What was the one that could the black guy that could change his?
That's Nightcrawler.
No,
Will
not
No.
Nightcrawler.
Will I Am's character.
Yeah.
One where he put the what's his name? Put the thing in his, and he
That
exploded.
was
It's been a
Darwin.
while since I've seen it, so
No.
Oh, First Class.
yes.
Yeah.
First
Darwin.
Class. I'm sorry. You're right. It was First Class. My bad.
Yeah, and they did him dirty. His whole power is literally he can adapt to anything, and yeah, he's literally the first person to die. Just not even in the fight, just when the henchmen show up. Now,
At least let it be a main battle.
and then it's like when you read like about Darwin, it's just like this doesn't make sense then because he would have adapted to it. He literally adapts to anything to the point where like if he's getting his ass beat and like he can't like fight the person off, he'll just like teleport away from the fight. Like his pals will just like teleport him somewhere safe. And it's because it's caused issues I've read where it's like they're like in a battle and they like need him and his powers just like are like, nope, we're not gonna survive this. Time to go.
Nope. Our job is to survive. That's his mutant ability, is to live.
Mm-hmm.
To adapt, to survive. But no, I mean, and like Will I Am's character, John Wraith, he was basically, like you said, like pretty much Nightcrawler. He could teleport. And
Which they did him dirty in that.
I mean, X-Men Origins was a dirty movie.
Oh yeah.
So, you know what I'm saying? Like that was kind of, nobody got done dirtier than Deadpool. So,
Oh goodness.
you know.
But I mean, at least it was a springboard for him to actually make the movie that needs to be made.
But let's see, Remy LeBeau. Who is that? I just wanted to find that guy. But would you approve of him to be Gambit? Like if they go out and they do a movie strictly with him, has he earned that? The guy who did it in X-Men Origins.
Hell no, the movie was terrible.
So who would you like to see as Gambit? Who's your fan?
Right now,
nobody.
Now let's bring in.
I honestly can't think of anybody either.
Here's my thing. And we talked about, me, Sam, and Ty talked about this on another episode or something, but it's basically like when you think about like these characters, right? They're coming into the MCU. There's already like an impression of them that you have of what they kind of need to be in order to work in this universe. You're not just like putting a character on a blank canvas to see what'll happen. So I really feel like when they introduce the X-Men, I don't think Gambit should be in that like first crop. Mm-mm. Like to me, like Gambit,
I better not see Jubilee either.
I mean, well, but
we already saw Jubilee.
It really just depends on who is going to be the teenage character who we see the world of X-Men through. Is it going to be? Are they going to do Kitty Pryde? Are they going to do Rogue again? Are they going to do Jubilee like the cartoon? Like, I think that kind of will set the tone for who the rest of the team should be, in my opinion. Because if it's like Kitty Pryde, then I would like for it to resemble kind of more like the giant size team with like Colossus and Wolverine, Storm, kind of bringing in those guys. But I just want to see it done with a plan. And I think that because Gambit is like the kind of character where like he's like seasoning on the dish, but it's like we need to get that dish like marinating and cooking a little bit more before we figure out like what kind of seasoning we really need to put on it. Because I feel like they just go into so many X-Men movies like, let's just show as many people, different and different powers because we got the special effects budget, but like it misses the whole like heart behind the story sometimes. Like I feel like I think we all know the comic book obviously started as like a racial allegory where like the X-Men were like black people and Professor X is Martin Luther King and Magneto's Malcolm X, et cetera, et cetera. But then like in the film, it's wide known that like the films kind of push that allegory more towards like an LGBT angle. And so in the movie, the things that I feel like they've gotten right in the past is the commentary more on like the X-Men not being accepted by society rather than like, let's just show like all this cool stuff. Cause that's what at its heart, that's what X-Men was about. Like people needing to learn how to control their powers that they didn't ask for. And, you know, a certain group of them decide to use their powers to try to help other mutants and help keep mutants from doing crazy stuff to humans. So
some was using it for their own benefit and some were using it for the benefit of mankind.
Right. But then it's like, I think it's interesting when you start introducing a character like Magneto to a world that has already accepted the superhero. Because it kind of then is like, I think Marvel is really going to have to tackle that question of like, well, what is the difference between Spider-Man and Wolverine? You know what I mean? Just in terms of the fact that like they both have powers. Why is Spider-Man the friendly neighborhood Spider-Man, but Wolverine is like a beast because he's a mutant?
That would be an interesting dynamic.
I am actually apprehensive of them introducing the mutants into the MCU for exactly that reason, because everybody's wanted it for so long. I'm afraid they're going to overdo it. They're going to try to introduce.
I'm going to say this.
They're going to mix storylines, fast forward certain things that need to happen / combine just to get mutants into the MCU.
Well, I would say that the fact that they haven't already done it gives me hope. Like if this was WB, and it was like they just got X-Men.
Or the
X-Men
CW
came out last week. You know what I mean?
You know what? They didn't already made the movie. They was just waiting to have the rights to release it.
But I do really think that like Kevin Feige is showing like this is a universe and it has to have like a structure that makes sense. And so like what we do with these characters has to make sense, and we have to find a way to be able to introduce characters in a way that makes sense, just like we've done for like every other
Everybody else
that we've like introduced. So
yeah, I could definitely see it going down that way. And I think honestly, as far as the introduction, I don't think it would be as rushed as you're fearful of, Jeff. I think it is going to be, they are going to take their time, do it slowly. And I think it will come, the easiest way to do it will be to kind of combine those two scenarios.
The only fear I have is with them doing away with Inhumans, with Miss Marvel and stuff, is that they're going to try to umbrella all Inhuman stuff under the mutant thing, which is, it's not working for Miss Marvel. Miss Marvel is one of the few series I have yet to sit down and finish.
I think that though, do you watch like teenage stuff?
I watch Stargirl. I love Stargirl.
It's not really a teenage show.
A good Stargirl is a girl empowerment teenage high school show. It's also a good story is a good story.
True, but like what I'm saying is if you don't like teenage stuff, like if you don't watch a lot of shows where it's like this teenage girl is like going through, like, yeah, I admit, like I feel you on Stargirl, but with Stargirl, I also felt like it's a movie about building family and like all this stuff like that. That's not what Miss Marvel is like going through. She going through like something completely different. So it's like if you watch stuff with like a lot of teen angst, like Degrassi or like Never Have I Ever and stuff like that.
Turning Red or whatever it was, the Disney movie.
Yeah, stuff like that.
That's one and done for me. One and done. But I did watch it.
Right.
Oh.
I guess it's more about the relatable experience, because if it's not the type of series that you typically watch, you can still relate to it because, you know, hey, at one point you were a kid. You were probably never a teenage girl, so you may not be able to fully relate, but, you know, you do see and recognize you've had, you know, people in your life that you've been around at different times. You can try to quasi understand and perceive, at least based on the character's perception.
For me, it's more of a, I see their side of it versus how I was to said teenage girl.
Exactly. And it's not even in an attempt to, and we'll be very careful with this, not even in an attempt to mansplain it or whatnot, but just to see a perspective that is not your own understanding. And I think that's what you were just saying, like being able to see it presented to you and accept what is presented to you, because you can't relate and you have to accept that what is being said is like, oh, that's how that is. Okay.
And,
I didn't know.
Sam, I hate to say this, but me and you and possibly even David. David, did you ever Dungeon Master for D&D, or have you only been a player?
Oh, no. I've DM'd.
Okay. Having that experience under my belt of having to look at it from someone else's perspective, or what would they do in this situation when the player character does this, has given me a better perspective to be able to watch said series and get something out of it more than the normal person.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I can objectively take a step back and be like, all right, I may not agree with this viewpoint, but I can see how this relates to the viewpoint I already have, or the other side of the coin kind of thing.
Right. And I think with a show like Miss Marvel, you know, even though they are moving away from the Terrigen Mist, and moving away from the Terrigen Mist does alter Miss Marvel's story to some degree, but even in comics, they have made some changes there, the way they're retconning that sort of thing.
And so, can I say that's another reason why I'm unsure about the canon of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., because there was a whole Inhuman saga in that show that was centered around
I agree.
this.
Yeah.
If Inhumans, the show, had actually succeeded and got ratings, I think the MCU would look a little different now. It wouldn't. They wouldn't have necessarily shied away from Inhumans and the Territory Mist and where.
We actually did
for less.
We did a deep dive the other day. What was it? Last week,
2 weeks
week
ago,
before?
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago, we did a deep dive in Miss Marvel, Inhumans, Territory Mist, and the fast track to sidestep mutants. And now that mutants are available, kind of retconning that same option. Like it's very easy to have a plan when you have limited options. Once your options open up, you have to rethink your plan. And that's essentially what Marvel has done, what Disney has done, because when Disney did not have the rights, they were like, oh, we can have these characters exist and they won't be mutants, because Wanda and Pietro have always been mutants. There's never been a time when they weren't mutants. Now that they get their powers from the Infinity Stones and they were experiments, it's totally different. They don't have to be mutants. At some point later, they can always go in and change anything in WandaVision because, oh, she's been a witch this whole time. And, oh, maybe it's, like Agatha was kind of saying, like, oh, what do we have here? A young little witch probably using a probability hex or something like that. If it turns out that, okay, she can manipulate probability because she's a mutant, and that's a mutant power. And even when we look at something as simple as Deadpool, Domino just said she's lucky. She didn't explain it. She didn't break it down. She didn't say why. She just said she's lucky. So at any point they decide that they want to say that Domino's a mutant, they're always available to just boom, make her a mutant once that option is there. But by leaving it open and leaving it available for interpretation, hey, we're good to go. Cable, there you go.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So it's like, and it's a little bit different because, of course, they fall into a separate category where they can say the word X-Men, where they can say the words, mutant. It is a little different. But when you bring in Ralph Boner, Pedro, you know what I'm saying? And you can't say that, you can't even call him Quicksilver.
I groaned out loud when that happened.
Quicksilver.
So groaned out loud. He had on the classic Quicksilver thing for Halloween.
We already uncovered this. You weren't on here when we uncovered this?
I may not have been. I'm a recent addition to the Weigh In Wednesdays. So
have you seen Multitude of Madness?
Yes.
So you know how Wanda, when she's dreaming, she's actually seeing in other dimensions, right?
Yes.
Which is why in WandaVision, the kids that she made were the kids that she was seeing in her dreams, which she didn't know were in other dimensions, but they actually were. Well, the X-Men Fox universe is just one of those dimensions that she saw in her dreams. So her brother in the MCU that got killed, played by Aaron, whatever his name, Aaron Taylor or something like that.
Aaron Taylor Johnson.
He's Quicksilver in the MCU, right? But when she sleeps, she sees a dream of the Fox universe, and homeboy what's his name? I don't know none of these people's names.
Evan Peters. Evan Peters.
She sees Evan Peters Quicksilver in one of her dreams. So when she's building her like fantasy like city or whatever, she reaches when she thinks when it's time for like the guest brother to show up, she's got to grab somebody in this universe, in this dimension to do that. And it's the guy who looks like the guy she saw in her dream running really fast like her brother. It's not that guy. It's his doppelganger who doesn't have actual speed powers.
But that was also a soft introduction to a mutant, if you think about it.
Yeah.
He didn't actually, the kid ran around, but he didn't. but she still pulled him from a mutant universe.
No, he ran around with the kid.
Yeah, you're
Because
right.
the very first
Yeah,
time we see he's actually sitting on the sofa, the two kids walk over and they're gonna like talk about him, and he gets up and he runs off and scares them. And then later, when he goes to put on his costume, he zips out and zips back, and he's got his hair all done up and everything. And then when he takes the kids out to go trick or treating the first time, and they're pulling all the pranks, we see Speed. He has the abilities, he has the speed, but
that was a soft introduction to mutants.
I would agree. I think the way we're going to get the introduction is going to come from another Doctor Strange, because we're now talking about incursions. We know we got Secret Wars coming up.
They had Charles Xavier and I mean, they had the yellow. I mean, that right there showed me it's coming.
That was Fox Kids animation, animated X-Men chair, Charles Xavier. And I'm here for it. You know what I'm saying? I was loving it.
I'm so ready for X-Men 97. So ready for X-Men 97.
We had, and it took Kevin Feige one time to show us what we want to see. I don't want to see no more big X wheels. Okay, give me a floating wheelchair. We ready for it. All them steps in the X mansion.
I thought the same thing when I watched it. I was like, "No, the floating chair would have no problem with this, but those wheels."
Every time people show up at the mansion, he roll out, but he like 25 steps up. Where are you coming from, bro?
Where's the ramp down the side? You know what I mean? Like
he can levitate himself if he so chooses. Just because you don't see him levitating, you know that he can do it.
So,
not telekinetic.
Well, guys, as always, I love being on here with y'all. I stay on way longer than I should have, but I have to get up early, and I will see y'all next week.
All right, man. You know what? We're actually going to be not far behind you. We're coming right around that time.
I know y'all. Not far behind you means 1:30, 1:45. So
no.
I'm already a half hour past when I said I was going to be on here, so I'm already past my due. But I'll
even with a late start, that's why we ran like we did. All right, man. I appreciate it. And if you come down here for either one of those experiences, let me know.
All right.
Yeah.
So, yeah, he does not have telekinesis. So, yeah, maybe Jean Grey just moves him around as he needs to be moved. That's why he keeps her at the school and won't let her leave, because he got to get around.
That's so messed up.
That is. That's why he won't let her grow, because he got to have somebody at the house.
Yep.
You think by now he would have
want her to date lame ass Scott. She don't even like him. He's just playing that in her mind.
Right. I mean, she, apparently she been at the school for some time. She ain't met nobody else. She don't know no different.
Please.
I kind of
women. Please find a woman.
You know what? But I kind of feel like something like poor Rogue. She probably only had one boyfriend. So I'm sure it's going to be kind of the same for Jean Grey. She's boyfriend makes her happy. That could go either way. You don't know. I think the incursions will be the introduction to the mutants, as it would be the easiest way, because I think they will benefit from allowing the audience to be intelligent and say that there are already a number of established movies. So let's just hit the ground running and tell new stories with the characters you already know. Maybe there'll be a time or two where we can, verbalize this or say this, but without having to do a whole setup. Similar to the way they introduced Spider-Man into the MCU. You know who Spider-Man is. You've seen those other movies, whether they were good or not, whether you liked them or not. They exist, and you can get all of your origin stuff from there.
But here's a question, though. When you think about those X-Men movies, really, did we get a lot of origin stuff? I feel like those X-Men movies were very reliant on all right, y'all know what he do. Y'all know what he do because y'all seen the cartoon. And that's partially why I'm just I wish they would just make it a show and not a movie, because I feel like it's so many characters, so many ideas, so many themes that by the time you introduce everybody, it's just you don't have no time in a movie to actually tell a story. So you either got to tell a story or you gotta
establish your characters.
characters.
Well, I think the biggest challenge might be the appropriate word here. I think the biggest challenge to that is what origin are we get? Like, in most cases, the only time we're really going to see anything that would qualify as an origin is the manifestation of the powers.
Right.
If that qualifies as the origin, like what event triggered this person's powers to manifest? Does it manifest because of a triggering event, or did they just wake up one morning and now they can do this? You know what I'm saying? It's because these are mutants; they are born that way.
I don't even need to see all that though. I'm more talking about like you walking into like a school that's a front for mutant vigilantes. How are you setting that up realistically inside the construct that is the MCU?
Why would it be? Why would it be any different than the conversation he had in First Class? Or, you know what I'm saying? I mean, I get where that's that's a little different in, say, X-Men, X2, and Last Stand. I get where it's a little different there, where we really didn't have those deep dives and those conversations. It was just, hey, I want you to join our team. And then he gets there and he's like, what is this? Some kind of school? And, you know, it's just like, it's probably played up more for laughs because it's like, you know what? Don't worry about the school part. We need you to fight. That's why you're here. You're not here to teach a class. You can teach PE if you feel that's what has to happen. You know, and I think they even kind of made that joke in one episode where people show up was like, what do you, when they're going to talk to Bobby Drake's parents. And he's like, you know, so this school, what does you teach? PE. You know what I'm saying?
I thought it was Metal Shop.
I thought he said PE, but the point is, like, it was something played for laughs because he's clearly not a damn teacher, but he's here as a teacher. I can see where that might come in and how that's going to be something that needs explanation, but I feel like the John McAvoy, James McAvoy, Xavier explained that as best as we are going to get in terms of an explanation.
I don't necessarily even mean like a verbal explanation. I just mean like, how is the movie going to explain this to us as a viewer so that we understand like what the hell is going on? Like, I feel like in the Fox movies, the technique was kind of just like show up, there's like maybe a new character this time, but you always like go through the school and it's just like kids running around using their powers all willy-nilly, kids playing outside, but they're playing frisbee, but this guy can make the frisbee on fire and then it turns into a wolf and jumps up and grabs it. It's like that's how they like visually tell that story, right? So I guess I'm curious though as to like, okay, are we just going to keep doing that? How do we choose who gets to be on that like team that's sitting around the table? Who are those characters? How do we deal with the interpersonal relationships between them? Because like I don't give a shit about the kids at the school. That's not a factor. Like there was kids at the school in the '90s series. There was kids at the school in every series. All I care about is the team that's getting on the Blackbird.
How do you make the cut? How do you transition from being a student to being an X-Man?
I mean, if that's what the show is about, I'm cool with that too. There was a good series about that I want to say it was like season 2 of X-Men Evolution was kind of like that, where it was like more mutant kids were like popping up, and some of the kids that had been like with the Brotherhood defected or whatever, but basically they were just getting more kids to like come live at the school, and they were just doing like all this training and stuff, and some kids were fitting in, some kids weren't, but it was just introducing like new characters like Boom Boom and all those like kind of more ancillary characters. But that's after they established like teenage Scott and teenage Jean Grey, and obviously Wolverine and Storm are still grown. But which I don't really know why Storm had to be grown on the show. Like it would have been nice to see like teenage Black
Aurora.
But I guess it doesn't really make sense with like her story because like so much of her like Shadow King origins and all that is well known. So having her there as a teenager doesn't really make sense.
Well, at the same time, if my recollection is correct, like Wolverine's always been the oldest.
Yeah.
And they've got Professor Xavier and then Storm. Like those are the top three in ages.
Well, but like in the original comic book, for instance, like Cyclops and like Storm was like on the second wave of X-Men that came through. So it was like Cyclops, Jean Grey, Beast, Iceman,
Angel.
And then they graduate, they form X Factor, and then that's when you get the like giant size X-Men. That's when you introduce Wolverine and Storm and Nightcrawler and
Colossus.
all the like basically it was like the United Nations lineup.
The second string.
Like everybody's from like different countries and stuff because they're trying to like make it more popular globally.
And so, I mean, but no, I definitely agree that as far as given that the character, like, it's almost like who she was modeled after and how she was modeled. Yeah, she will always have to be an adult simply because of the time that she spent being an African goddess. You know what I'm saying? Like, because that is part of her story growing up and everything that took place, like you said, also with the Shadow King. There was time already there. You can't erase that time. And even when they did Apocalypse, you know what I'm saying, it was kind of weird because you brought in the cool young hip Mohawk Storm, but you like really watered her down. And that's not a knock on Angela Shipp or not Andrea Shipp. She portrayed the role that was given, but that version of Storm was very, very weak. And Storm has never. The only time Storm has been a weak character was when she was a child and did not know better, or if you somehow trap her in a box.
Right. Way.
Yeah, like her claustrophobia kick in, that's a little different. But other than that.
Also might be a wrap for you too.
Right. Because then she'll start lashing out and that's when she loses her Omega level powers, you know, so it never made sense that way. But yeah, I think an incursion would be the easiest way. And once we get them here, show them, I think they can kind of do this. Like I said, if they go the same way they did with Spider-Man, where you introduce the character as is, established what we know, you don't have to do a lot of like backup because these are characters that we know. So you do start with the main lineup. You start with the big names, the names that people know that don't require a full explanation, or at the very least, characters that have already been on screen. So maybe we get a better version of them or something along those lines. But as a result, we now have an opportunity to jump right in, hit the ground running, both feet, and in doing that, you get to establish the presence. After you establish the presence, sure, why couldn't Charles Xavier have a whole conversation of how the school was started and do it in a flashback scene? You know what I'm saying? And you know, not you don't necessarily have to, like, you're probably wondering how we got here. Well, let me take you back to where it all began.
Please don't.
Wavy lines, wavy lines, wavy lines. Here's a young Charles getting picked on. And look at his big fat stepbrother, you know, beating him up and like picking on him. Right, you know what I'm saying? So you gotta get your setups when you can and make it pretty cool. And of course he'll be in an all red outfit because why wouldn't he be?
I'm just curious about how they're gonna do it.
Yeah,
because I know I don't think they're not gonna stick the landing. I mean, why would I start betting against them now? You know.
without a doubt, not a question, not an issue. I think it's going to work out really, really well. I look forward to it. It is going to still be a while. You know what I'm saying? And that's probably the only part that is somewhat.
Yeah, he said like 2026.
Yeah. I mean, I thought about that, but you know what I'm saying? When Kane Kane Marco, right? You know, it's I would just imagine as a kid, that's how he would have been. And he would have been the bully, beating up on poor Charles. And, you know, later on, I mean, you talk about a glow up though. You know, my man was like, even before he found the gem of Satarak, or however you pronounce it, even before he found the gem, he was in a cave exploring, and my man was huge and big as shit and everything then. So he had his glow up. But as kids, we gotta, you know what I'm saying? Like, he probably had to hit puberty and whatnot. So, but he was always going to be a bigger person. You know what I'm saying? So he wasn't necessarily the blob. And these are teenagers, you know, and not even teenagers. I'm sure these were like, you know, younger kids. So he would have had to have been a bigger child, and it's just not going to be as practical. It's not to say that it's impossible, but it's not going to be as practical for him to have been like, you know, young Hercules or something. Nah, man. You know what? Let me just go ahead and see if I can put my foot even further. I got fat people in my family, dog. Like, it's totally not even like that. But nah. I mean, I'm just saying, like, you know, I'm just picturing. In contrast, he would be a larger person. Interpret larger however you choose, or the way that works and fits best. But Kane Marco would have been much larger than Charles Xavier, even as children. And the way he used to always tease Chuck, you know what I'm saying? In my head, I just picture that being, you know, I don't feel like he would have made his life any easier. And just as kids, I think in order to like properly bully him, he needed to be sizably bigger, you know? And having come from a wealthy family that Charles technically married into, you know, or it was Charles's family that was wealthy, and Marco's family that married into the money. You know, once that money came, he started eating a little better, and you know, I don't know how those genetics work. Help me out there. Maybe you can answer it for me, DJ. How about that? But I think that'd be a cool way to introduce it. Like, you know, just that's how you drop the little Easter egg for damn it, Kane Marco. You got me confused now. What's
Mutants?
Not mutants. Specifically Kane Marco. What's his damn mutant name? Juggernaut. Thank you. That's how you drop your little Easter egg for Juggernaut. And the little flashback scene that Jeff doesn't want in the Marvel movie when it finally, in the X-Men movie when it finally drops.
Yeah, no family flashbacks, man. Get it. Like, let's get these characters in therapy.
I mean, you know what? Like, we didn't have to see Uncle Ben die. We know that happens, and we know that that's what makes him Spider-Man. I will give the Batman some credit. They can't, unfortunately, you know, you can't get away from it. So I can't give them all the credit, but I will give them some credit because they went past that, because you know that origin. It was there, but it wasn't like a prominent scene. You know what I'm saying? They just went ahead and kind of glossed over it to get it done out the way. It's almost like an obligation to Bill Finger and Bob Kane. Like, you got to pay their families, so you got to show the pearls and the gunshot, you know?
Right.
But since they were able to gloss over that in the opening, we can get right to it. We have an established Batman. We don't have to see the parents die. And I think as we get better established with these characters, as we are now, 2009 to 2022, like we are well established in comic book movies. So I'd be hard pressed to find somebody who hasn't seen an MCU movie at this point. You know what I'm saying? And so it's like some of this stuff was like Spider-Man was going to be popular in and of its own right. You know what I'm saying? And some of these were going to be popular in and of their own right. The MCU really brought it to the forefront and got people kind of into this series and following along and catching all the movies and stuff like that. Because when the wife and I, this probably this weekend, it doesn't come out this weekend. Love and Thunder, I think will
tomorrow.
Okay, so yeah, this weekend we will be watching Love and Thunder, which I actually missed in the theater. Don't know how I feel about that. I think it's the first Marvel movie I've missed in the theater. I feel a little bad about it. Same time.
My first.
Do what?
Black Widow was my first.
I still managed to catch Black Widow in the theater. That was
see. My thing is going to the theaters with all the streaming services that are out there right now. You don't have to wait but a couple of months after it gets out, after it's done in the theaters. It's streaming.
This is true. And I mean, it's funny because streaming services, they bypass the VHS and DVD release. Because I remember once upon a time when a movie came out in the theaters, it was in the theaters for like 6 months because it wasn't just pumping out movies like that. So you had plenty of time to actually see it in theaters. Then when it finally left the theaters, you had a nice little wait before it was going to be available on home video, whether that was DVD, VHS, or whatever the case may be. Then eventually it became just available on DVD. And then if you didn't want to go out and buy it because there was nowhere to rent it from after a short while, you could wait for it to show up on HBO, Cinemax, Showtime, or the movie channel. You had to wait even longer. Now, you don't catch a movie at the theater, you get that thing like 45 days, and it is at your house. Because it will be available on Amazon Prime or Vudu Movies or Apple Movie. One of these paid services will allow you to watch that movie and buy it immediately and rent it. And I do think it's interesting sometimes that they will let you buy the movie before they will let you rent the movie. Like they want them guaranteed funds. They want that $19.99. Morbius is on Netflix right now.
And they got 2 theatrical releases.
Are you serious?
All right, hold on.
Can I tell you I did not know that?
Hold on. Let's check this.
I mean, I don't think it matters if I knew it or not. I'm not gonna watch it again. Actually, you know what? I may make it Morbin time just because it's on Netflix.
Yep, there it is.
And you know what? Watch it. Here's the funny part. Watch Mobius do really well on Netflix, despite having just been such a bad movie in general.
Well, because nobody wanted to go to the theaters to see it. But if you're paying for Netflix, you might as well watch it.
Well, it's like people get to see what the fuss is about with like no additional expense. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's like they get to be like, all right, like let's see if it was that bad. And if it was, it's like I didn't pay any extra money for like the Morbius package on my Netflix. And so, you turn it off, go watch something else, as opposed to like it's not like back in the day when folks would like go to the movies and like
you'd be stuck.
Like you'd be stuck, or you just go try to like sneak into another movie.
No, I never did that.
We definitely did that. My brother's dad took us to see The Glimmer Man.
I remember that.
Oh, wow.
1, terrible. 2, wildly inappropriate for us at the ages that we were. So then he was like, all right, let's go. And we just went to another theater to see, and we saw like I think it was Mighty Ducks 3.
I do recall as a youth, me and my cousin went to the movie theater, and we went to like a midday show. We went to like a 1:00 show, and we did not leave the theater until like 9 something.
Well,
and the funny thing is, because that was back when they had like the little arcade set up, so when you leave the theater, you could go into this room and like play video games for a good little while. So of course, once you get you buy your tickets at the door, they tear your tickets right there, and you walk in. Once you're inside the building, there was no reason to check your tickets or tear your tickets again, because you only got in if you bought your tickets. And now it's like, yeah, that's totally different because.
Well, and see, I also remember. You remember when Regal 8 was in Conyers?
Yes, that was where I was when we were there.
Well, when they were when they were waiting on the new theater to open, the current manager had already known he's getting fired. Like he knew his job was over with. Certain people did not get charged to go in and see movies.
You know
he
what?
was like, I don't care.
I'm not gonna put nobody on blast, but I used to have a homie that worked at the newer AMC theater, and we would go and when they would get all of the new movies that were released on like Thursday, like if something, new movie comes out, they'd have like a 10 o'clock Thursday showing or whatnot. They would get those tapes, or they would get those reels and everything, and like Tuesday and Wednesday nights.
Mm-hmm.
There was a small group of us, and we would get to go, and we would go in, and we would, when they were running the screener film, we would all go in and sit on that.
The actual film?
Yeah, this is the film that they're going to be showing.
Yeah.
On Thursday.
And
they have to put it in, play it, make sure there's no issues with it.
Yep.
And we sit and watch. I've watched a ton of movies like that.
Oh, I will never say who it was that brought me in, but I had a buddy that worked in the projection booth at Regal 8. That's how I got to know the manager.
It's always interesting when I log in. When I log into stuff on my computer versus logging in anywhere else, like,
all right,
what I'm seeing on screen here is totally different.
I'm fixing to go because I'm sure we're probably going to end soon anyway.
Yeah, and, we're past our 3-hour mark, so
I gotta hit the head, and I gotta go sleep. You are working tomorrow, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Today would have been my not working day.
So
and it was I had a lot of I had a long honey-do list today.
Yeah. I will be in the Covington area tomorrow because Mom and Jen are going to be out of town, so I got to go sit with Bruce, hang out with him, do some stuff with him. So I will be in town.
All right.
Meet up for that.
Cool. We'll kick out a schedule. But you know what? We'll just keep it simple. And I want to thank all my guests tonight. I want to thank Jeffrey. No, let me take that because names don't show up when I'm showing the chat. I want to thank DJ for hanging out with us all night, man. Like I said, that's my honorary extra guest host. He always got the info to keep us true. Anything we mess up on, he's always got an answer for us. So when I be like, who was that guy that such and such? Boom, it's in the comments. So I appreciate DJ Fat Snacks for hanging out with us. Jeff, I want to thank you for being on with us tonight. He left out a little bit earlier, but it was great to have a full house tonight. We got in, we talked about some stuff. And even though we bored the hell out of Jeffrey with our Lord of the Rings and House of Dragons. He suffered through. We gave him his time to shine with the X-Men. One of the things we know he loves. So I do not want them to fuck up X-Men just because I want to hear all the great things he has to say about it. He did. If you were listening and you got to that point, you may have heard that Ty, who was with us as well from Whiskelodian, he was here in the earlier part of the show. We do have a special series coming out pretty soon. We're trying to work out the kinks on that. And I will be introducing a nifty segment to Weigh In Wednesdays. I will figure out how to get some tags up for it, put some cool banners, and when we go to this segment, it'll be a fun little thing we can do. Everybody can participate and be a part of it, and it'll be great on nights when we have a full house. But we have been Grown A Geeks. This has been Weigh In Wednesday. I want to thank everybody for having tuned in. We want to thank you for watching this. Be sure to click the like and subscribe. Be a part of all of the weekly adventures. We are here just about every Wednesday, usually around 9. It used to be every Wednesday at 9:05, and life happened. So now it's going to be most Wednesdays about 9. So be on the lookout for it. And the easiest way is to just like and subscribe. And if you do that, you'll get the notification when we're live. But that's it for us. We will see you next week. Y'all be cool. Peace.